Welcome, everybody. Welcome to my good friend David Reed from Dial the Gate, who's here to talk to us live. We're going to talk about the show. We're going to talk about his history with Stargate. And I'm going to try and keep an eye on the chat over here just to see, flag me down if you can't hear one of us or if anything terrible is happening, if there are dinosaurs running through the back.
Cats and dogs live together. Mass hysteria.
Otherwise, we're just going to have a good time. We're here to chat with David. I was saying before we started for real that people are more used to seeing your face on this channel than mine because we do Dial the Gate clips here at GateWorld. But
Yeah.
if you just watch the clips on GateWorld, I got to tell you, like David says at the end of every one of those clips, there's a whole channel, and those interviews are an hour plus long. So you got to go and follow Dial the Gate here at YouTube.
We stay pretty
Welcome, buddy.
busy. How are you, man?
I'm good. I'm just a little frazzled trying to figure out all the bells and whistles. Like I know there's a learning curve, and I watched you go through it 4 years ago when the show first started.
So what prompted this? Why did you suddenly want to start doing live streams? I'm genuinely curious.
Well, for a few reasons. One, we started channel memberships last month, and so I wanted an opportunity to kind of continue to build the community and have more chances for people to interact. I'd love to just do casual hangouts with other Stargate fans and just kind of bring people on here like this with a two shot and talk to chat and stuff like that. But also, to be honest, the start of Dial the Gate season 5 is a great excuse to do this
Yeah.
because I've been wanting to interview you for years. I've right here at Gate World, we've done what we could. I've done what I could to support Dial the Gate.
And you have
Whatever
with
whatever
great,
you
great
ask
success.
for, whether it's smoking people at trivia, whatever you need me to show up for, I will be happy to do it. But I've wanted to interview you because you have now built a career out of Stargate, which we'll talk about, but specifically now out of interviewing people. Dial the Gate is an oral history project digging deep into the history of Stargate's production, the people who made it, faces that we know from camera, but also lots of behind the scenes production people. And because you've not only hosted this show now for you're about to premiere your fifth season, but you've had a long career in Stargate doing lots of different things that I think are really interesting. And people should be interested in getting to know you. And I've been on social media and I've seen people post on YouTube or on Reddit, and they say, okay, who's this David Reed guy? I keep seeing
Ah.
all these interviews. How does he
I
seem to know all these people? Why is
prefer to
he,
stay that way.
so
Frankly.
familiar with Rachel Luttrell and Joe Flanagan and all these people? So I want to have a chance to get to talk to you, put you in the interviewee seat. So I've got some questions prepped.
Okay. Well, I we'll see how this goes. I'm good at dishing them out. I'm not so good at taking them. So we'll have to see what happens. My answers may be but hey, we'll see what happens. All right, so can they only see me in this box? They can't see anything else?
Right now we're just in this two up box.
Okay, but
So
can you switch to the wide?
yeah, there we go.
Okay. Well, only when,
Now you're wide.
it's yeah, oh, okay, only when it's appropriate because there's some of
I'm
the
wide. Let's get my
the
lower third on there. Now you're wide again.
oh, okay. Because there's some of the stuff that I'm going to be referencing is behind me that you can only see like in the wide view. So
Perfect.
because there's
Yeah, we
some
want to hear
changes
about
to
your
the sets for
toys.
this year. So yeah.
We want to hear about your
Um,
toys. We'll get to those in a little bit.
got
I
it.
do have questions prepped before we get started. This is a low key stream. Uh, I'm okay with just hanging out, things going
Okay.
wrong. That's cool. Part of that is just to keep my own stress level in check.
Yep.
But also to praise you and your team because you are really a pro at this. And once you learned the tools and did it for a while and had a few false starts with
Yeah.
your mic muted.
Yeah.
I remember those days. You've become a pro at this. What's been your experience first just doing this and doing it on YouTube as a platform?
I think I had a lot of help though. No one goes it alone. So it's been it's been almost exactly what I wanted it to be when I first had the idea just after COVID started, like May 2020. where people were starting to go online and communicate with one another in different ways, particularly on YouTube via Zoom. And as it became apparent that we were going to all get accustomed to this new technology of communicating with one another through this app, this Zoom app, it became pretty obvious that Luddite actors would be more willing to adapt this technology because if you can get them to use it, then we can bring them into our dens and our living rooms and our offices via this software and share their stories. Don't have to spend thousands and thousands of dollars going out to where approximately where they live, sitting down and or renting out a space, sitting down with them, hiring a camera crew. You can really be a one-man band and pull this thing off. And so it's been pretty extraordinary. There are a lot of voices that I would love to have be a part of the collection, but uh, frankly, I've been far more interested in people I've never spoken with before, people you've never spoken with before, people whose stories we don't have in, the online Stargate sphere that we can add to a permanent indexable archive for the future going forward. That may be YouTube now, it may be Rumble in the future, it may be something else later on, but these stories will exist for everyone, every Stargate fan, and for free. And that was the goal of Dial the Gate. That's what's happened. So 300 episodes. So something's
It's been
working.
it's been incredible. I've got lots of questions about it. And you're already anticipating, of course, as you do, a lot of my questions. All right. Well, I want to ask you some questions and also open it to chat to ask questions a little bit later in the live stream.
Oh no.
So we'll do a
Okay.
Q&A. If you guys have
Okay.
questions out there, think of your question, hold it close to your heart. We'll
Jesus.
go and interact with the chat a bit before we finish up. Dial the Gate Season 5 premieres Saturday, March 29th. That is less than 24 hours from now. We'll talk about your guests. We'll talk about the plans for the season. But thank you for being at GateWorld to promote the show. I feel like Johnny Carson, who is terrible
Well,
at his job.
there is a little bit of that. Johnny, he did a good job. He was all right. But no, GateWorld is home, so GateWorld is home plate. So it's important for me, to come back here and share this news with you. And once again, I'm honored to be your first guest of, who knows who you're going to get now. So now that you're doing this for everybody for whenever, live so that they can participate. Um, but what was the question? Yeah, dial a gate. Something about dial a gate.
Yeah, we'll get to it. You know what? Let's back
Okay.
up first.
Okay.
Let's start with you and I have known each other since you were in high school. I think you were graduating or
Yeah.
had just graduated high school.
No, I hadn't graduated high school yet
You
when we
hadn't
first
yet.
communicated. No, this was either 2000 or '01.
So
So
tell
it was
us,
still Starguide. It wasn't Gate World yet.
it wasn't GateWorld yet. So
Uh-uh.
yeah, GateWorld officially adopted that moniker 2000. I think
Okay.
maybe 2001.
Season 5 was airing. So I guess it was 2001. It wasn't 2000.
So starting at the beginning, take us back to your discovery of Stargate and the your fandom for Stargate. How did this become so huge before you started to make a living at it?
Saturday nights, our local ABC affiliate in Southern Illinois had a sci-fi programming block of 3 hours once the news ended at like 9 o'clock at night to so 9 o'clock at night to like midnight or 1 in the morning. And it was routinely Out of the Limits or Poltergeist the Legacy. And then I think Earth Final Conflict. And so you had MGM's broadcasts hour or a couple of them. And then I forget who it was that did Earth Final Conflict out of Toronto. But one night I was watching, this would have been fall of '98, and the second show didn't start. Instead, it's this crane shot of airmen playing poker. And they're starting to talk about this ring, and the tarp is moving for some strange reason. And underneath it is one of the most amazing props I have ever seen. Like, what is that? What is that? Do I know that? I think I know what that is. No, I don't know what that is. And lo and behold, it was Stargate SG-1. I vaguely remember hearing something that a TV series was in development. I'd never seen the movie. From my point of view, it sat next to The Fifth Element on the VHS rack at the Walmart. And I'd never paid much attention to it. Kurt Russell, James Spader, who? Um, and I watched the first hour. I really liked it. It didn't stop. It just kept on going. I'm like, I gotta go to bed. I gotta get up for church. So we had these things called VCRs back in those days. So I stuck a tape into the machine. I made sure there was tape sticking over the square, and I pressed record, and I just went to bed. Came home from church the next day, and I watched the second hour, and I was hooked. There was no question this was going to be a new show of mine. I didn't watch a lot of TV at this point, other than like my Star Trek reruns and a couple of other things like Outer Limits and so forth. But so Sunday night comes along, and I'm in the living room with my dad, and I think we have NBC on, and Stargate airs as the movie of the week. And I spoke with Jonathan Glassner a couple of years ago, and he said that was not an accident. That would have been on purpose. And I'm like, well, it's a good thing too, because that got me hooked. And then from then, I bought Showtime for the house. I think it was like $11 a month, $11 a month. I wasn't making a lot of money at this point. I was a lawnmower kid, and I got it for us. And so I skipped ahead, and the first episode that I saw, uh, first one broadcast was The Enemy Within. And I had just, or excuse me, Sam. Sam gets so in the line of duty, and I had just seen
season
I
two.
had just seen The Enemy Within like a couple of days before. So I was on my second week, and then I was hooked. I went and bought Showtime, and then I see in the line of duty and on Showtime, and they're having the conversation. Well, we need to get it out of here. And Daniel says, "Well, that didn't exactly work with Kowalski." And I'm like, "Yeah, I just saw that last week." And it's been a ride ever since. Um, yeah, so I think I started watching just before you did, technically, right? Or did you and I start exactly because you didn't watch it first run either, season one?
Well, let's see. Yeah, you started in syndication, right? So that would have been the fall of
Fall of 98.
when the show started in syndication. And I had graduated from college in 98, and then I got a job in Chicago, and I was living in corporate housing at first, and
Oh.
they had a Showtime subscription. So I couldn't tell you if
Ah.
I watched season two, right? Because they used to premiere in the summer
Okay.
on Showtime. I couldn't tell you if I saw something from early season two or it was a Saturday and I saw season one premiere. I think I started with
Okay.
season two. I started somewhere around Thor's Chariot, something in the first half of season two. And then I got hooked. I'd wanted to watch the show. I'd seen the
Oh,
advertising
okay.
before
Had you
it
seen the movie
premiered.
in the theaters?
I don't remember if I saw it in the theaters, but I loved the movie and I had a copy of it on VHS. I remember having it in my apartment in college. So I was already a big fan. I grew up on MacGyver, so I was sold already on the TV concept and the cast,
Wow.
but I didn't get a chance to watch it until suddenly I was out of college living on my own. I
Okay.
had Showtime, and then I went back and started watching the Saturday reruns. And Showtime was also doing Saturday repeats for season one
Right.
to catch up. So yeah, you and I probably started watching right about the same time.
Wow. Did the
And
missus enter your life first, or did Stargate?
did the Mrs. Darren enter my life first?
Yeah, or did Stargate? Which did you
Uh,
discover first?
well, as far as the TV show goes, she was there first. She's
Oh,
got
okay.
first dibs.
All right.
Yeah, so the movie came out in 94, which was right after I graduated from high school. And we met in college and got engaged while I was living in Chicago watching Stargate. And then she moved out and I got her addicted, of course. But
It's
I've
a good
told that
thing
story
too.
before. I've told that story on Dial the Gate. That's the GateWorld origin story. But we're working on the David Reed Dalgate origin story right now. So
Sorry.
when did your fandom then lead you to go on the internet and begin to offer your services to this little fan site startup?
I wasn't big into exploring online for anything other than really Trek. I followed Voyager spoilers like mad throughout the show's run.
Yeah.
I didn't really have internet in my bedroom because the computer in my house was in my room. So we didn't have internet until I didn't have internet in there until 99, I think 2000. I think I was 17. My dad was like, okay. And so it would have been around then that I started poking around. And at a certain point, I discovered Starguide and it became GateWorld. I remember the transition. And I remember being so impressed by the work that you were doing that I just typed off this little email. God, I've tried to find it. I've got it somewhere and I've not been able to find it. And your reply, like 2 or 3 months later, it was at least a month.
That sounds right.
Um, and it was just like, hey, thanks so much for watching. Pet your doggy for me. You didn't tell me then that you hated dogs.
I do not hate
Um,
dogs.
you sure
I'm
acted
not a
like it.
dog person,
Frank was like, look
but
at me, and you were like,
do
no,
not
like
hate
this little foot and a half thing. I mean, he sat up, he finally jumped up. Darren came over and visited once when I had this little red
yeah.
dachshund,
You have little
and
wiener
you
dogs.
wouldn't you
Super
wouldn't
cute.
look at him for nothing. This cute little dog, and so he sat up, he jumped up on your lap while you were sitting in a chair on like day three, and he was like, I'm sitting here, and I remember the look on your face. You were just like, I am not having this.
What am I supposed to do with
I
this?
am not going to acknowledge this dog. You would not pet him. I thought it
I
was
tell
a
you though,
riot.
this is a different podcast, but I tell you, the older I've gotten, the more interested I am in doggies.
Oh wow. Okay, there is
I
hope
don't
for
know if
you
I'm gonna get
yet.
one, but
Okay. They're
yeah.
complicated. They're not as complicated as cats. But that was it. And so a few months later, maybe a year later, I was a freshman in college, I'm pretty sure. So this no, this had to yeah. So this had to have been late 2002. Um Early 2002. Anyway, season 6 was airing, and I reached out to you and I said, I want to contribute in some way, which was a real hoot because I was like just my life was, being transformed with college and everything else. And I wanted to find some way to contribute because I was so um when you see someone expressing themselves creatively, it's an oxytocin hit and a dopamine hit, and you want to start doing that as well. And so you responded much faster this time. Said, "Well, tell me what you know." And so I wrote a response of Stargate stuff, and so I wrote a response and said, "This is like my idea of the concept of the show, and this is the stuff that I'm familiar with, and everything else." And then you said, "I'm working on this encyclopedia for the website. It's been brewing in the back of my mind for a while. Uh, Maybe, you can participate in it or something." And I was like, say no more. And I just started making like beginning. I sat down, I opened a notepad text window, and I started like putting in people, places, and things and everything else. And lo and behold, you had actually created a pretty extensive list of hundreds of entries that were just in a text document that you sent me. And I was like, this guy is really far ahead, and his spelling is, much different than mine. Maybe he's using different sources. Um,
Spelling. The longer we've gone, the more I've discovered
Ritu,
things in the
yeah.
Omnipedia that I just made up. I
Well,
just
yeah.
spelled
One of them is
phonetically.
my fault. Comtraya, I spelled
Redo.
it Comtraya, even though it was on the screen in Double Jeopardy as Comtrya.
Yeah,
So
we
that's
had
my fault,
Contrary
and I
around for a while.
routinely see people spell it that way. But
And
yeah,
I've
you
I've
fixed
gone
that.
back and fixed it since then. There
You
have been a few
finally
of
fixed it.
those
That was my
that
fault.
I've gone back and fixed in recent years in the Omnipedia.
Yep.
Ritu, Comtria, I
Well,
think
Ritu, we didn't know
Shadok's
until
name.
later. Shanok, but everyone goes back and forth on that.
Yeah.
So no, I don't think anyone can decide what. But anyway, that's how I started. And so when season 7 began, I sat down with Fallen and I watched it as an audience member, And then the next day I sat down and I played it again with my laptop and or a notepad. I think it was my laptop in front of me and started internalizing everything. So anytime I had really watched Stargate for that from that point forward for the next like 6, 7, 8 years, um, it went into long-term memory and it stayed. So I was able to, provide facts and everything like that relatively quickly. That's not the case so much anymore in my 40s. You didn't warn me about that. But it's been great. So it's gotten me a few different places, very, very largely thanks to you. And should I run down what I've done really quickly
Well,
since
we'll get
then?
to it. I actually want to talk
Okay.
about them one by
All
one.
right.
But
Oh
yeah,
God.
we
Okay.
were two peas in a pod for many
Oh
years. I
man.
think because we both not only appreciated the material that we were working on, but we thought about it, we approached it very much the
True.
same way. And
Sometimes a little
so,
too similarly.
yeah, we would get inside each other's heads, right? And we would both anticipate the same idea.
We would
And
start, we would write the other, and the other one would say, okay, that's spooky. I'm not messing around. I was actually thinking that.
yeah, I was about to
Um,
pitch that to you, and then you
you had
pitched.
just at one point, I remember you just texted, you had texted me, let's do this, or I think I've got an idea to make it better. And I just said, I'll never forget this. I said, I miss Harlan. And then you said afterwards, you don't miss a beat.
Stronger, faster.
Faster. Yeah. Uh,
Uh,
woo.
so it was a lot of years, and GateWorld was always a side hobby for me. I was working, and then I was in school part time, and then I was in school part time, and then I moved overseas to finish studying, and um,
There were
so
some
it
hard days
was
in there too.
your
There
your
were some
your
scary days too where we talked like you didn't know
yeah.
what was going to come next. So
That's for sure. GateWorld's come very close to extinction on a few occasions. But the point is your trajectory with the site was very long, right? It was stretched out over many, many years. Some years were very intense.
yeah,
We used to visit the sets in Vancouver and go to the conventions annually for 5 or 6 years, 4 or 5 years, and then it's slowed down. Uh, SGU didn't get as much attention as some of
mm-mm.
the previous shows had. The SG-1 Atlantis movies had tough time getting made after 2008. And then the show went off the air in 2010, and it just became a different thing.
2011.
2011, yeah, canceled in 2010, off the air in
Yeah,
2011. So as you look at that trajectory of your time with GateWorld, what are the best memories?
I think the day that you communicated with me that we had been given a chance to go up and see the set and talk with the crew and the cast, which SG-1 was early in its ninth season, and Atlantis was in season two. Um, you had gone up there a year before, working with MGM directly on a project, and um, you and I at that point had really uh, grown the website together. I wasn't just doing, on the PDF stuff anymore. I was doing a lot of interview stuff, so that interviews with cast and crew to get some exposure because there were a couple of other websites along at that point. One in particular that we were kind of neck and neck with on the ALEXA um, website, which vertically ranked every website on the internet in terms of visits. There was this website that has the same name as the Amazon device. And we were like neck and neck around there. I think 10,000th largest website. It's a big deal at that point. I think we got up to like 8,000, but that ranking system, that ranking doesn't even, I think, exist anymore. And I was like,
I
we
forgot about that.
need, we need to pull ahead of these other guys. What can we do? And you were doing, you could always hammer out a news story in 40 minutes. And I couldn't do that. And I was like, what do I have going for me? I've got my loud mouth. I had done a text interview with Jacqueline Samuda.
We found our skill sets, didn't we?
Yeah, and so I reached out to a gal by the name of Cynthia Simon. She was Amanda Tapping, rest in peace, Cynthia. She was Amanda Tapping's agent. I'm like, go for broke. What's the worst that can happen? I'll get a no or a, no response at all. This nice lady called me back. Amanda would love to sit down and talk with you over the phone. So I recorded I guess maybe 30 or 40 minutes with Amanda. God, I was nervous. And I hadn't told you about it at all. And I asked her, can I have your autograph? So she sent me two signed autographs and you two signed autographs. And I think I may have shared the interview with you first because I didn't know when Amanda was going to be sending that. I knew that she would. But I shared that interview with you first, and we had it on the website fairly quickly. We had to do the transcripts and everything all by hand at that point. I did transcripts for years. But that was the first that, and we started getting eyeballs, and then we started getting more eyeballs and more eyeballs. I bought a subscription to IMDb Pro. I started getting the names and numbers of the agents, and we started communicating with these people. So by the time that
We wanted to do
season,
transcripts. We wanted to do
right,
audio. We wanted to hold ourselves to
right,
a
I
high
wanted
standard.
multimedia. I
I had
wanted
a
I wanted
journalism
something more than
background
just text.
from college, and yeah, we this was unusual in 2000, 2001, 2002. This was unusual for a
Hmm.
site to produce this kind of material at this level, and we could do it so quickly. Right. You
That's
were on the
right.
phone with Amanda. We got the transcript out. You edited the audio and it was up.
Hmm.
And that's the benefit of something like a fan site that doesn't require studio approval. It doesn't require it to go,
Yeah.
before corporate lawyers
It doesn't have to
or
go before legal or any of that. We just ran it. I don't think they had started production on season 8 yet at that point. Season 8 was in front of cameras. So for that year, like every week, I was pushing out an interview. And then by a couple by 2007, it was two a week for a huge stretch there. I was like, I've got too much content. We're going way too far out, like 2 months out. We need to push a couple of these out. And you were hand coding the whole website at this point and had this rotating screen on the front page. You're like, these things aren't up there for very long. I'm like, screw how long they're up there. Make the page longer, let's push more content. More content was the order of the day. And you got the call to go up there, and it was with MGM, and it was like I wish I was there with him. I really wish I was there with him for that because I feel like I was a component of that exposure. Um, I don't think I
well,
said anything. Maybe I did say something, but the next year you brought me,
yeah. So
and
just to specify, that history was right. I had been in contact with MGM, and
yeah.
Joe Malazzi ultimately was responsible for the invitation to bring, the
Oh,
webmaster of a fan site up. He had
wow.
kind of putting the bug in MGM's ear. And I was starting to do some consulting writing for them. MGM had their own email newsletter and their own little fan space website. So I was starting to do some writing for them
Hmm.
on a consulting basis. So that first year was when they were shooting New Order at the top of season 8.
The torture scene.
Yeah, with Amanda in the replicator block wall with Fifth. I went up there ostensibly as a consultant for MGM, and I
For
was
Dead Like
working
Me too.
for them. And I
Yeah.
went also to the Dead Like Me photo shoot, and I interviewed some of that cast. And it was kind of set up originally with this thing where this ostensibly this was the reason why I was on set was to do work for MGM. And then when it was all done, I could, take all this interview material and go to MGM and say, okay, this is what I would like to now put on GateWorld. What do you guys think? And they were cool with it. And it was sort of the right GateWorld was a secondary thing. Once we'd gone through that process the first year,
Yeah.
then year 2, GateWorld got an invite. That wasn't me working for
Got it.
MGM. That was GateWorld's invitation. So you and I went together.
Got it. Well, yeah, I understand the process. Yeah, it's
And that felt
so
right.
okay.
Yeah, being
Yeah.
there with you, getting to see the village set for the first time. This was the brand new village set that they had just put up it was on the effects stage, right?
Hmm. The
At Bridge. And what were they shooting
cave.
that year?
They were shooting, what were they shooting? So Atlantis was filming Trinity. We saw we for those 3 or 4 years, there are scenes in SG-1 in Atlantis that each of us can point to and say we were there for that one, we were there for that one, we were there. So every year there were two or three. So for that year, they were shooting on Vala's planet, and we mean you no harm. You know who I am, Aztec. I am your god. So that was the scene they were over at Norco for that scene. And then we saw on Atlantis, Ronan and Taylor come back through the Stargate, and then it pans up
That's right.
and Weir is chewing out Rodney in his office. And we saw that get filmed. So those were
Yeah.
the first.
For blowing up
Um,
3/5 of a solar
yeah.
system.
The first is, well, 5, 6 is not exact, or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And that was the beginning of it. But I remember your anecdote of being not surprised, but when the illusion was shattered for you.
Yeah.
Because for us at that point, Stargate Command was a concrete compound, and remember you put your hand up against the
Yeah,
wall.
they could have shot it inside Cheyenne Mountain for all I knew.
Yeah,
Until you walk through that little studio door in Burnaby, and suddenly you're in this military complex, and I reach my hand out and put it on the concrete wall, and
it's
that
drywall.
ain't concrete. It's
It's just paint.
painted drywall.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll never forget that. And then, so I went and did it the next year. And Bridget Prochaska, Carol Appleby, the publicity department there, we didn't really think to communicate with them at this point, but at that point forward, they were our eyes and ears in, connecting us. And when we made a request, we had a great shot at getting a yes.
Yeah, they were
Because
very
they
good.
knew that we were both you and I had a journalism background. So we took journalism ethics and had that drilled into us. Okay, this is what you do, this is what you don't do. And it was like, if something is not real, or if you have one source or something, where's the other source for it? We're not just gonna, there wasn't this arms race for spoiler information at this point, about upcoming stuff for the shows. And that's what it was. So I think it kept us grounded. Not that we didn't get into trouble every now and then,
Yep,
oversharing,
we sure did.
but yeah. Yeah.
That's the topic for another podcast. At
Yes.
some point in there, while you were still at GateWorld, you started at Propworx. No, before Propworx was Stargate Worlds. So
Before
you
that,
started first at Stargate Worlds?
that was before that.
Okay,
I
what was
picked I
first?
picked Stargate SG-1 Atlantis magazine. You
The
relinquished
magazine.
that to me.
That's right. I
Yeah,
had been
that was my
editing the news
first.
section for the official magazine,
Yeah, that
and
was
when
my
I got
first
busy
paid
with
gig.
school, I passed it
Yeah.
over to you.
Yeah, so I did 5 or 6 issues at that point, and then they decided to go internal. So
Okay.
that was really cool to actually finally have my name in print.
Mm-hmm.
And most of it, what it was, condensing articles that you had written into a printable format. So that's one of those that window will never come around again. That was, and that's cool to have that. But that was the first, and then I graduated college December of '06, and 2 days later, a gal by the name of Katie Postma, who I met at Chicago Creation Stargate Convention earlier that year, communicated with me over AOL Instant Messenger and said, "Oh my God," because we were just talking about something. She said, "Oh my God, would you like a job?" And I had graduated a day before, maybe 2 days before. And by the end of that night, I was calling my folks saying, I think that there's a really good shot I'm going to be flying out to Mesa, Arizona, like 1,700 miles away, to be interviewing for the vacant community manager position on this Stargate title that they're working on called Stargate Worlds. And by January 3rd or 4th, I was on an airplane, and by February the 3rd, I was there. That happened that fast. That
Had
was a
you,
whirlwind transformation.
yeah, had you at that point considered making Stargate specifically or sci-fi entertainment fandom journalism generally a career? Or
I,
were you assuming that this was a fun thing you were doing on the side while you looked for a real job like a
I
grown-up?
yeah, what could you do? What could you possibly be doing in the world of Stargate other than, just reporting on it, working on the set? It didn't occur to me that this was a possibility. Uh, so, I mean, anyone can be a consultant as long as they have Wikipedia. Anyone can provide Stargate information. But no, it didn't occur to me at all. And so to graduate, because they needed that position needed a bachelor's degree to be the community manager, because it was a management position at Cheyenne Mountain Entertainment. So once I had that, then I was in. And that was that was my life for the next 18 months. So
Was that all it was? Was a year and a half?
it was a year and a half.
Okay.
Yeah. There's a story there, and I'm going to reveal it to you shortly.
It's
But
an intense year and a half.
that was a whirlwind.
What that company went through. Most people know Stargate Worlds
Yeah.
as the massively multiplayer online role-playing game for the Stargate universe that was even going to be canon. It had
Yeah.
Brad and Rob on board as consultants that never got finished and never got released.
It was going to reveal the Furling home planet at the end of it. There was this crystalline alien race called they wanted, for whatever reason, they loved the name Stragus, and there was gonna be a like an NID offshoot division called OpCore that made their home on this frozen alien wasteland, and a an ancient planet uh, in the Milky Way galaxy. I forget what its name was, but off the top of my head right now. But there was this whole thing going on. They were going to incorporate the Furlings finally into the mythology, and we were exploring, like, where does all the crystal technology come from? All of the gold have that, and and everyone else. Where does that really connect to? And I remember Rob and Brad suggested, we've never explored the Titans. What if you change the Stray just to the Titans? And they're like, it's like that's a great idea. Um, but that was the start. So getting to be able to be a bridge between the Stargate Worlds team and the building the fan community in advance. That was the intent, building hype for the thing. I did 15 news items every week for StargateWorlds.com and ran the forums and was doing video production on special features and everything else, and
Wow.
was hanging out with the engineers and the designers, most of whom were Stargate fans, most of whom enjoyed it, except for a couple of people in my division who hated the show, which was part of some problems later on. If you want me to get into them without naming names, I'll share some of the stuff that happened. But it was an extraordinary experience, and for the first time in my life, an only child, who's really tight with his parents, is out on his own across the country with his little dog, and that was it. And it forced me to stand up on my own 2 feet and figure out what I was made of. And no, the laundry isn't going to be automatically processed for you anymore, and the dishes aren't going to automatically be washed. And I thank you and I thank Stargate for all of those opportunities that have just kept on moving along into different things as the franchise has grown. But yeah, Stargate Worlds for about 18 months, so a little less.
Wow.
Yeah.
You've done so much. I mean, we could be here for 3 hours if we go too in depth on everything. But I've avoided asking you too much about Stargate Worlds over the years, in part because I know that everybody who cashed out of that at the end
Oh
signed
God, it was a
NDAs.
mess. It was a huge
There was
mess.
lots of back and forth legal battles.
Yeah.
We got Stargate Resistance was published for about 11 months, I think it was online before it was yanked.
Yeah.
So I know, right? You guys all signed NDAs, probably with an entity
It,
that no longer
it
exists.
doesn't exist. You know what, Darren?
Yeah,
The
whatever
game
you feel like you want fans to know about that experience.
at that point where they were at, the game wasn't fun. They had an alpha team that the game was in alpha, early alpha. They had a QA department. Um, they had for all like the Jaffa assets, they had a third party creating all of that content for Dakara, and it was coming in, and it was just looking like this Greek stuff. The concept art was brilliant, but
Yeah.
I wasn't really thrilled with what it was looking. Everything that the team was doing internally looked great, but the problem was the game wasn't fun. The big mechanic that we were all harping on moving forward was there was going to be cover. For the first time in a game, there was going to be cover. And so you're doing this a lot. So all of the placements have like concrete barriers, and you can up and shoot the P90 and then come back down. And that was the new big mechanic. There was a game that came out around the same that was coming out earlier around the same time that was called Tabula Rasa, not the Stargate episode, but you can look this game up. It sunset a long time ago, and I think Tabula they came out and looked at our game, and then the designer said, yeah, they announced like a couple of days later, yeah, we're adding cover to our game. So they completely pulled that from us.
Hmm.
But I didn't find it fun, the stuff that I was seeing. And one of the other designers actually called it, is a multi-million dollar version of Peekaboo. And that
It's
was
the
one of
cover
my
mechanic, you mean?
the cover
This
mechanic.
this was at a time in gaming when the cover mechanic was new, right? This was the
Right,
PS
latency was
Xbox 360 era.
yeah, latency was a real problem, for a lot of users at this point. So that was just becoming available. I'm sure that had the game continued on, it would have been more fun, but what I was seeing wasn't really that cool. And the team, they were working their asses off to hit deadlines and everything else. And I think that had it really had a chance to continue, ultimately, it would have probably been amazing, but not from what I really saw before I was fired, which I've never shared with you.
No,
Um, I have not shared that with you. It took me a long time to get over that. I considered myself, this is so ridiculous, as kind of like an unofficial keeper of the flame
sure.
in terms of what Brad and Rob had created. And I'm pretty expressive, and blunt in terms of sharing and I hadn't really figured out how to communicate very well with people yet. I had no siblings, and I spoke my mind. And this was my first adult job. And so I would be in board meetings and they would be talking about designs. And then when it would come around for me to say, oh, yes, yes, I love it, I think it's fantastic, I would say, no, I don't think this is a good idea.
Just because it's off brand, it doesn't feel like it's Stargate.
The Asgard were going to dance. In WoW, in World of Warcraft,
They like
there are big
Fortnite dance or what?
you press slash dance in World of Warcraft, and your character starts dancing until you take them out of it. And one of the folks at the top, we went round and round about this, casually in the hallway, and then it came to a head in this meeting. And it was like, you guys, we can't have Dancing Asgard. There was a Dancing Asgard guild already put together in the Stargate Worlds forum. These people were ready to go on this. And I was just like, but the Asgard don't dance. And the guy turned to me. This is a very important person. And he said, David, the Asgard will dance. And I said, so and so, you spent all this energy making an authentic Stargate World, the Stargate product, and you introduce a behavior that they don't do, you've just stripped the game of its authenticity.
Yeah, now
So
it's no
please,
longer a piece of creative that is
can you
set
believe I
in the
said
canon
that?
universe.
I said that to him. And I said,
Now it's
I think that every
a
character,
funny thing that's inspired by.
right, it's cute. And
Yeah.
in hindsight, sure, let them dance, whatever. But I mean, you should be able to press a button, and the Asgard should be able to wave his hand and have um, this clear console materialize, and he can type some buttons. Every character should have like a thing that they can do, that you can put them all together, and they can all do them together.
Yeah.
But
Like a little idle animation.
right,
So
something
you
cool
put your
that
foot down.
I put my foot down because
The
that's not
wrong
what happens
person.
in Stargate. And by June of '08, I was let go. And I was told that I they didn't really say what I was doing, but I knew, you know.
You were being too gatekeepery.
Yeah, yeah. I wasn't a team player. Didn't know how to be yet. And no one really sat down with me and said, you can't really say those things, you know? And so that was it. And it took me a long time to get over that, man. June 2008. What happened September, October? So when I'm getting ready to get back on my feet and start looking for more work, because I had money saved up, I wasn't doing really anything. I don't drink, I don't, whatever. So I took the summer off. September, October comes along.
Yeah,
I'm in Florida, and the stock market collapses, or the housing market collapses.
yeah.
And when I get back to Phoenix, I'm like, I better start looking for some kind of a part-time job. And I was out of work for almost 2 years. Thanks a lot, housing market. And I discovered Lost in that time, and I got hooked on Lost. But come along fall of 2009, just before Thanksgiving, you send me a notification from Alec Peters. We're selling off the Stargate assets. And I think at that point, Stargate Worlds had gone boom by then. I was very ambivalent about it. I was like,
Yeah, I think that's right. I don't know.
yeah.
After you left when the company
Oh, for
imploded
sure. Yeah, because they
and
weren't meeting their
MGM yanked the
milestones and MGM
license.
pulled the license. Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Um,
I had gotten this email, right? I was full on up to my eyebrows in schoolwork trying to complete a master's degree. In 2009, I was graduating and looking at PhD studies, and I got an email. SG-1 had shut down. The movies were canceled. They were getting ready to sell off the assets from the show in Vancouver, and they needed people to go in and tell them what was what, right? Because this was
SG
a
Atlantis had been canceled. SGU was season 2 was beginning.
right. SGU was still going.
Yeah.
SG-1 and Atlantis were done. So MGM was finally ready to sell off stuff, right? They struck the sets.
Hmm.
They used the SG-1 set for the Atlantis or for the SGU pilot. And then they struck the sets and they had gobs and gobs of props and costumes and set pieces and the Stargates themselves. And so I got the email from this company, right? Propworx is going to go in. They've been hired by MGM or licensed, whatever the right word is, to go in and do this, right? Take care of it all, inventory it, figure out what's what,
Yep.
sell it, and MGM, of course, got a cut from it.
Yep.
So I did not have time to respond to him at all, other than say, "Wow, this sounds really incredible. Good luck." And then I thought twice about it, right? I was almost going to kind of brush him off and say, good luck, let us know when we can start advertising the auction for you.
Mm,
And then I thought David would be an amazing resource for this
right.
project. So I sent you that email. And you
Right.
ended up,
I wrote him before Thanksgiving, and I'd never heard of this guy before. His photo was on Facebook in front of the Enterprise A at the Christie's auction for Star Trek. And I went back and watched. I'm like, oh yeah, he's in that crowd. I'd watched the Christie's special on that. That was really cool. I'm like, this guy knows his stuff. So I reached out to him, and I think we had a phone conversation that same day. I said, do you need someone who can identify this stuff? And it was because of the GateWorld brand and my experience with all of that that he said, well, between Christmas and New Year's, no, this was early December, just December 2009. We're early December 2009. We're going to go up there for a week and we're going to determine what is worth anything that we can take. So I think they bought my ticket, and I met some of their team, and I went up there with them and Mark Davidson and Valerie Halverson and her assistant and John Lennox and a couple others. We all because this is at the end of SGU season 1, so they're coming in, putting this stuff together. We worked for a week. We worked our asses off, and we managed to tag what would ultimately be about 6,500 uh, uh, assets that could be sold. Costumes, props, set decoration, um, and it was ultimately around 6,000 pieces. So that's how that started. I took a
And it
lot
was
of
not everything, right? Not by a long shot. I imagine
well,
you walk into these warehouses and uh, even if they're very well organized, you've got
right.
stuff that wasn't even necessarily screen used, that has just been kicking around. You pick up a gun and say, I've never seen this before in my life.
Yeah,
Whereas you pick up another weapon and this is clearly a hero prop that is going
right.
to, can go for a few $1,000
The smaller
that
stuff, we just took all of it.
folks aren't going to
But for the
recognize.
bigger, right, for the bigger pieces, we had to be very specific. I remember seeing the stasis pod that was introduced in um, Enemies, no, in Nemesis season 3, and Thor's stasis pod, and I was like, we've got to take this, and Alex said, no, we're not taking that. I'm like, what? We've got to take this. This has been used seasons and seasons since. He says it's too big.
Too
I said,
big.
Wiley, it's too big. He said, look, we tried to sell every Viper and Raptor and Raider from Battlestar Galactica. None of them sold. It's too big. No one's going to put them anywhere. I'm
Yeah.
like, really? He said, yeah. And we started going through costumes, and poor Valerie, she had some of these amazing pieces that at that point I had ingrained in me, okay, David, pick stuff that will sell. Don't pick stuff that won't. And so like her collection of Bolokai costumes from Missing, like we picked out Danny Trejo's and a couple of others, and she was like, "You don't want these others?" And I'm like, "We don't have room. We've got this much allocated for the trucks. We had two or three truck. We had at least two semis that had
There's
to
so
get
much
through the
space.
border,
You got
and
to go over the
we
border
had to go over the
and
border. So everything had to be inventoried in spreadsheets. And you can't put guns, you can't put swords, you have to put metal wedges because anything that flags on there, they're going to break the seal on the back of the semi trucks and take everything out.
yeah.
And so, but they weren't guns. They were props. They were water pistols that in some cases like from Wormhole Extreme actual water pistols. And so we weren't moving anything across that should have been inappropriate or that was inappropriate. Nothing dangerous, but all this stuff on paper, blocks of C4. That's dangerous.
Yeah.
So after that week, we came back, and that entire time I'm thinking I want to go back to St. Louis area. I don't want to move to LA at all. I don't want to go out there. I've been there several times. It's crowded. It's polluted. Um, and at the end of the week, I told Alec as he's taking me to the airport, he says, "I want you on the team." And I said, "Can I please consult from a distance?" He said, "Either you're in or you're out." And I said, "Okay."
I remember you were pretty reluctant about living in Los
I
Angeles.
didn't want to go, man. And when it was done, I was gone.
Yeah.
But that was another year and a half.
Yeah. But you did
Uh,
other shows as well for
we did
Propworx.
Iron Man. We did the entire Kevin Smith library. We did
You got me some stuff
Defying Gravity.
from Defying Gravity, which I absolutely
Yeah, yeah, there was some really cool stuff. But yeah, for sure, that was a huge portion of my life. Dean Newberry, Alec, Curtis Short, Damian Buer, Jared Hunt. We were all Stargate fans,
yeah.
and I led that. There was another guy that Alec had hired to work over me, who was a buddy of his, and like a month in, he was like, "Screw it, I'm out." And so I began to manage the Stargate warehouse. Stargate had its
Wow.
own dedicated warehouse that was rented across town in Santa Ana. It was a football field long and like half a football field wide. It was at least 30 yards across. And there was all the stuff. And so I and my team, we went through all of it. And even months in was finding stuff in boxes that we hadn't gotten access to before that was just put there. So it was amazing. The SG-1 and Atlantis contents that we got to collect. We've got 2 volumes auction catalogs. The first
Yeah.
one was in October. Here's a funny story. October, we went up to Seattle at the EMPSFN Museum. That's what it was called then, the Sci-Fi Museum.
Mhm.
And we had one of their rooms put aside for the first live auction. And the plan all along, because we had the location in SG-1 Stargate, the plan all along was to have the guys come down from Vancouver and put assemble the Stargate and put it up so that people could get pictures taken at it because a lot of people would show up and have the auction. A lot of fans would show up and get to participate in it. That week, guess which episode of SGU season 2 is being filmed? The one set on Langara. So Mark Davidson and his team came down and took all the pieces back up to Vancouver, and we had no Stargate to display. But we made it look great anyway. So the week that we were shooting the auction in Seattle, a few hundred miles to the north, they were filming the Langara episode from SGU season 2, and we had no Stargate.
Where they
But they made
needed the
it,
Milky Way Stargate.
yeah. And then the museum bought the gate, so we didn't even have to have them take it back to LA. They just carted it down to Seattle. So the museum has it. I don't think they've ever displayed it.
It's there right
Um,
now, right? I don't think it's on display. I haven't
I've
been
I don't
inside.
think they've sold it. So
As
they
far as
bought
I
it
know,
for
they don't.
$75,000 plus a buyer's premium. So
And that was the location Stargate.
it was the location Stargate for SG-1.
Now,
That's
the
right.
fact that Propworx knows they can't sell a full-size Viper, they can't even sell Thors,
They can
stasis.
try. That doesn't mean anyone's going to buy it.
Is
Yeah.
this, yeah, is this the logic behind what ultimately happens with the other Stargates for SG-1 in Atlantis, which is that they were cut into segments?
The
And
SG-1 Stargate was too big. So beneath it was a gear with a tons of little teeth around it, or like, and then the gear at the bottom was actually what caught it, similar to actually how this one spins. Um, they the the material it's steel underneath, and then on the outside you have what's the material called? I forget what it's called. It's that plastic metal. What? That's not metal. It's anyway, it's used in everything. But they were bolted on the pieces of the Stargate and the inner ring were bolted onto that. So we took the coverings off and sold. There were nine of them. Of course, were there nine or were there seven? I think there were a certain number of sections, and it was glyphs, 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 chevron, and that's how they were. And so we sold those for the second live auction, but without the endoskeleton. I mean, you couldn't really do much with it other than pull patterns off of it. So that's what
and
it
you ended
was.
up with one of these pieces, didn't you?
For SGU, which we didn't sell, I have one of the SGU Stargates downstairs, one of the sections of the 9 sections in my hallway down there. They managed to sell uh, each of those, so there were 18 segments, I believe, that were sold for that, and then they sold 7 of the Atlantis ones. Because the Atlantis gate was rubber, so on the inside there was steel, and so they cut those up, and then Mark Davidson and his team made display pieces for each of those. And so if you go online, you can find if you like put in like Stargate segment Propworx,
Yeah.
they made them really attractive pieces, and they individually lit them, made sure the LEDs worked on them and everything. They were great. Yeah, that was an amazing job that team did before they gave this stuff to us to make sure that some of this stuff
Yeah.
was maintained and just beautiful. They did a great job. So, and it was no problem moving so much of that stuff. There was some funny stuff too that I sold. Foam rocks from Search and Rescue. I mean, there's some wild things in there for sure, and some
You
strange
guys,
coincidences. So, but I
it,
want to reveal all that in a Dialogate documentary in the next year or two here.
okay, good. And
Shut up, David. I need to move on.
no, no, no. I'm glad that we get to spend more time on that in a future video.
Yeah.
Um, it's I know that you guys also were not just working on processing the props, getting them ready for auction, photographing everything, but also you were making content while you were there. You made a ton of videos.
Yeah.
You were posting auction rundowns on GateWorld on a regular basis. We did like
Yeah.
30 of them.
We had to promote
But
it,
also,
and
right,
yeah.
Propworks was posting stuff which I think is still findable on YouTube. You can go
Hmm.
see David before the beard when he
Yeah,
looked
oh man. Yeah,
more
the
like a young child, just
very low
talking through the
resolution
props.
videos.
Yeah, the low res 144p stuff that we used to do back in the day.
But I'm glad it
Watched.
exists. Yeah, there's a good 50, I think. And I was really interested in like showing stuff up close and personal and like turning stuff around and seeing it from like the backside, like the Atlantis wall sconces and everything
Yeah,
else. The movie magic behind it was really cool for a lot of it. And it was a great
yeah,
way
I
to
love that
market the
stuff.
content.
I
So
love
thank
you
you for
flipping
promoting.
flipping the stuff around and showing the switch right here. So there's an LED up in here, and here's how you turn it on.
Hmm.
That stuff was fun to see.
There was so many cool pieces. This the Telcheck device is the one that Cam uses in 200 there. Some of them found their way back into my hands after they were sold. There's some weird stories for a lot of them. Um, and
Yeah,
I
let's take a
got to
minute and talk
keep
about your collection.
so I
Uh,
got to keep things that I earmarked myself as
okay,
long as I paid for them.
right.
So I didn't get anything that was really one of a kind. It had to have something already sold so that I could compare it to. I suppose I could have, and they would have determined a value for it, and I would have paid it. Like
Okay.
the original ZPM that shows up in the Siege Part 3 with the case,
Hmm.
that was hard to get rid of. I really wanted to hang on to that. And it was like, no, this needs to go to a fan.
Hard for you to let
Um,
go. Yeah.
yeah, so a lot of really cool things. So much stuff was just like magnetic with magnets hidden for that movie magic kind of sci-fi look. That
Mhm.
the R&D, the design of so much of this stuff was just extraordinary, and they put a lot of money into all kinds of things. So
So Delegate viewers are always seeing your backdrop, of
yeah,
course. Having been to your house, or at least your previous homes, I know that there is much, much more than what
yeah.
is
There's
on
there's two
camera.
episodes in Dial the Gate that where we walk you through my house.
And yeah, go check out Dial the Gate if you haven't seen these videos yet. David does a closer look at his collection, and I
Yeah,
know you've
David
got some
Stargate
other stuff in the
collection.
works.
Yep.
But what you have on screen behind you right now, how much of that is original props? How much of that is replica stuff? You want to give us a quick tour?
Yeah, so the helmet down there is an original Ori Warrior helmet. That's the Eye of Ra from Full Circle. They made two of them. I have one. That's one of the original panels from Window of Opportunity. You can't see it, but up above, there's I can go and get it. I don't care if it's finished. What do you think it is for? So this is Mirti's um,
This is one of Nirchi's toys, right?
toys
Was it
from.
you that I was trying to identify this? I I I
What
was
do you
working on something I think for the Omnipedia, and
mean?
I was trying to
Mostly
figure
dental
out
tools and then
what
CO2
it was.
cartridges and coat hooks. And then on the top there is the um, just more like goldy technology. So they kit bashed. They kit bashed constantly. So that's all that is. So that's an original. So Rick plays with that in Rite of Passage. That's an original Kino, and that's an original dial button. And I think everything else over there is fan made. The Hollywood Collectibles Eye of Ra. These two pieces are Martin McLean's pen craftsmanship. He 3D printed these. This is a USS Hammond. I forget the name of the guy who made that, but that's several hundred at least pieces of styrene. That's incredible workmanship. This is going to be this you're seeing this for the first time. This right here was designed by a guy by the name of Darren, who has made a working you target. You like to see it? You're gonna see it. I can't hear you when you drop anyway. But yeah, so he built that for the show. That's one of two that exist, and then that's it. So um, it's quite extraordinary. That's 8 months of work right there.
Very cool. That's incredible.
And then my buddy Kevin Sabo at 3dtech.pro, he built that Atlantis, and two of the replicators on the show that are now downstairs in my dining room, eating all the food. But that's mainly what's behind me here. You've got, oh, I guess so that's an Ori wall sconce. That's original. The gold prodding device is original. I've got a over here. That ancient scanner that you can barely see, that's original. That's Destiny design, and a tablet replica. And then over here, that's an original Ori Prior staff. That's a replica of the Atlantis logo and some original concept art. And that's pretty much it. And then up here, which no one ever sees, I always have looking at me, is Evan Lauren's Atlantis. So that's everything that's in this room. And if you want to see the rest, just
Is
go
that the
to.
actual prop that they used for Lauren's painting in Sunday?
No, I reached out to James and asked him permission to reprint it, and so I did.
Okay.
So the ZPM is a prop replica, and I will share that story on Wormhole Extremists this weekend because it's an interesting one.
Very cool.
But yeah, that's everything that I. Oh, the touchstone is Martin McLean's work as well. So I think that's pretty much it.
Very
There's
cool.
always something. And so
And there's always a story, right? There's a story behind all of it.
that's true.
You got to keep this train rolling so that we're not here all day. Our poor friends in the UK are, or what are you
Oh, sorry, everybody.
right now? Okay, so you end up from Stargate Worlds to Propworx
Propworx.
to then working with MGM directly and
Yeah. So they
with the Stargate Command platform when that launched around Stargate Origins in 2017.
Yeah, somewhere around there, 2016 or something. Yeah, Jenny Stiven and I had been working together since she met us, I guess, in around 2006 or seven. She had been working with Fox Home Entertainment when they were distributing the Stargate DVDs because MGM didn't have a distributor for that. They didn't have an internal thing, so they outsourced that to 20th Century Fox. And Jenny and I had kept in contact. I had done video production work with her for 10 years. We got really tight. Stargate was going to be coming back in some shape or form, and they were going to launch a new website called Stargate Command. And on it, they were going to create content, original content, including another Stargate project. Sam Tolles announced we're making a new show, except it wasn't a new show. It was a web series, except it wasn't ultimately a web series in
Yeah.
its final form. It was a movie,
Yeah.
Stargate Origins Catherine. Although it was a web series. And I was a part of that process. And I created supplementary content on the website called Dialing Home with Christopher Judge. We got in touch with Christopher, and he and I co-hosted 2 seasons of interviews with members of the cast of all 3 series. And I got to know him pretty well through that process, had a wonderful time. I also got to interview him one-on-one for like 4 hours, I think, of content. We went through pretty much everything. Season 2 never launched because they pulled the plug on Stargate Command. We lost our funding and we got laid off. They
You
were
guys had
going
a
in a
whole
different
bunch of
direction
stuff filmed.
internally.
They had actually released a trailer for
Yeah,
Dialing Home Season 2.
yeah, you got it right. Yep, we sure did. And we had talked with Brad, a number of other folks for season 2, Bob Picardo, David Deluise, and most of that content has never been released. But it was a cool project, and it was cool to be on the Stargate Origins set and meet those folks who were working on that. I have a special place in my heart for Origins. It has its issues, but when people like really pound on it, I have a real problem with that
Yeah.
because I was there to help make sure that, 5 or 6, 7 SG-1 references were in there, in the script and on screen. And I think that the um, the theatrical cut is very serviceable. So, and everyone's like, but Catherine didn't go through the gate. And it's like, How do you know? Daniel didn't become an all-knowing ancient until it was meant in season 8 for him to be all-knowing.
Yeah,
Carter had to
and
pull something out of his mind. So they retcon here and
whatever
there.
you make of the conclusion, which I won't spoil here for anybody who hasn't seen Origin,
Right.
it's the complaints that it breaks canon
Doesn't break canon.
seem to indicate that you haven't watched it all the way to the end.
No, there's a reference in season 5, an episode called "The Tomb," to what happened to the DHD. It was taken by the Red Army and sent to Germany. And in the script for Stargate Origins, we deliberately made sure that they said in German, "Oh, it looks like the one in Berlin."
Yeah.
So there is continuity there if you're looking. And it's cool little nuggets. So.
Yeah, I think Origins too much gets compared to SG-1 and Atlantis
Yeah,
and Stargate Universe as a fourth Stargate series, which it wasn't. It was never
no,
intended to be. And yeah, I wasn't there for the making of it, but I got to meet a bunch of the cast for the Midway premiere at Comic-Con. And when you get to know the people who were making this thing
they
and
really had a
how
good
much of
time.
themselves they put into it and how little resources they had,
Hmm.
budgetary or otherwise, yeah, you start to root for projects like this and you start to,
Absolutely.
see the things that it did right.
100%. Yeah. Is it perfect? No. Am I proud of it? Yeah, I'm kind of proud of it.
That's cool.
Of being a part of it. So yeah. And then once Dialing Home finished, uh, the second season never got launched. And I was really like, I really think there was something here. I think that there was something cool that was going on here. I had been a huge fan of what's called the Archive of American Television. And it's these multi-hour long interviews, everyone from B. Arthur to Rick Berman. I guess that's A to B. But there's just hours of programming, in-depth questions. I was like, Stargate has nothing like that. We started doing that with Dialing Home, and then they just pulled the plug. I really want to do that. And then COVID hit, and everyone's life changed, and actors learned how to use computers a little bit. And I said, I think we've got a shot here. Sue Ann certainly did too. I think she launched before I did. I think she did.
Sue
And
and Braun with the Hathor Hosts live
Sue Ann
stream.
Braun with Hathor Hosts, and Simone Bailey did one for a little while too. And 300 episodes later, here I am.
Still
So,
going, season
and
5.
there's 15 either pre-recorded, pre-taped, or scheduled episodes already set for season 3. 15 of them.
Excellent.
Yeah, I'm proud of it.
Yeah,
It's
well, you
done.
gave
It's
me
done what I intended for it to do. So,
exactly. And I've been so thrilled to watch this project grow, not only because it's such a huge benefit to Stargate fans, all this free content and this
yeah,
look into the, behind the scenes of production of the shows that we love, stuff that's never come out, stories that I've never heard told. Um,
right.
at GateWorld, right? You did over 100 interviews at GateWorld, and we never talked to Dean
Over
Devlin.
100. No, we didn't. There were just a few people that it was like we missed these people. A lot of it was like for Dean, it was just the wrong time. But I ran into him at a convention. I think it was WonderCon. He was promoting Bad Samaritan. Good movie. David Tennant. Go check it out. It's a good little thriller. Uh, the trailer's on YouTube. Check it out. And I said, you know what? I would really love to sit down with you and talk about Stargate. I've never had the chance. I'm a huge fan of your work. It created so much that came after it. And I know that you're not crazy about what came after it, but I would really love to talk to you and see what you had in mind. And he said, we'll do that. And then when I launched Dial the Gate, he was one of the first people that I hit up and immediately said yes. He kept his word. And him, Sam J. Jones. Sam took a little while to get around to, but we finally got him in season 4, even if it's for 6 minutes. But I am so proud of some of these interviews. And I do think that I need to shut up more and let them talk a little bit more. I think I've gotten that better dialed in later on. I'm so insecure when it comes to sharing my knowledge about Stargate and like, oh, I must say that I know this thing before they can actually say it themselves. And looking at this from an archive perspective, because we now have transcripts on dialthegate.com, keeping my mouth shut lets them tell the story rather than me tell the story. And like if you and I do want to do something later with those transcripts, we've got them all nice and tight. So it's been a learning process. And yeah, I mean, there's some of these are really some of these stories that were shared. Can I share a couple of them?
Yeah, please. I mean, I'll say, first of all, before you get into some of the
Yeah,
specifics, you and I, right, we were there when Stargate was in production.
yeah,
We were visiting the sets, kind of telling the story of Stargate while it was happening. Now that it's in the rearview mirror, at least that chapter of it is in the rearview mirror. You and I have both kind of, I think, naturally, organically come to a point in our careers where we think of ourselves as armchair Stargate historians.
yeah.
And so I've found Dial the Gate to be such an absolutely invaluable resource. When the show first started, right, when you had Rob Cooper and Joe Malazzi and particularly the writers and executive producers on a really consistent basis, I was not only watching, I was taking notes because I have right this growing files of material for what one day might be a long form video series, what might be a book. You and I might end up doing something together on the history of Stargate. But I'm just right, I'm hearing stuff that I've never heard before. And so I'm
Hmm.
just taking notes while I'm watching your show. And it reminded me of when I used to watch SG-1. And
Yep.
I would watch it to enjoy it. Then I would rewind my DVR and I would watch it again with my laptop and take notes to make sure I got everything.
There's
But
tons of stories.
yeah, what are some of the standout stories? What are some of the standout interviews that you've had over the last 4 years?
Well, first I want to kind of set the stage because it's been this many years since production. And so that's a double-edged sword. The there are a couple of downsides to it. Number one, people can't remember everything that you expect them to remember. So it's important that you know what you're talking about because you can preempt them and then they're like, I forgot about that. Here's the story. Second part of it is,
I've seen that a lot, especially with directors. You remind a
yes,
one-off guest star who the director
yeah,
was. Yeah,
right.
Andy Makita was doing that, and he gave you that little stage direction, and then their eyes light up and they got a story.
They have the information, they just don't remember it. Second pitfall, they often remember it wrong. Uh, when you go into this and you pull the stories together and watch them together, they're not remembering information correctly. Rob Cooper, in my 10th interview with him, talks about the burning of Vala in Avalon Part 2. And he says they must have burned for over a minute. I went back to the special feature, and I think she burned for like at like 15, 20 seconds, something like that. He's misremembering. It's not intentional. He's just misremembering. So not only am I recording information, but we have to make sure that the recorded information has a little bit of elasticity to it because this is this person's perspective at this point in time. And this is where the good part of it comes in. At this point in time, no one gives a shit because it's all over and nobody cares except us. So they're willing to say anything that they want to say within reason. They're not going to hurt someone's feelings, but everything, all the balls have settled. I mean, they're not bouncing out, making ripples anymore now. So we can capture these stories. And for some of these things, some people have been very transparent about their feelings. Vaitiare Bandera, now Vaitiare Hirschon, was very upfront. I asked her about her nude scene, um, and and she shared how she felt about it. I deliberately do not seek out dirt. I'm not out to get anybody. However, if someone chooses to say something, it's not my place to say no, let's not do that. Um, that's not what this is for. This is their story. And if that's a part of their story, because I'm propping them on something that is important to us as fans, not just important to me. There was a writer that I went and sat down with in person who went on and on about her issues with Brad and Rob, about how this person felt. And I ended up cutting out about 10, 15 minutes of it. Like this is not helpful. This is not productive chunk of the conversation. But it's important that she told that to me so that I could get to the good stories of what made sense and what worked. So we got that. We got those stories out there. The rest was just, as far as I'm concerned, it was water under the bridge. And so was her, she was providing context. But I didn't need those. I didn't want to publish those stories on Dialogue. Those would only have hurt people.
Yeah.
And that was not my. But on the other hand, there was a great opportunity to get stories that you and I had heard, but we never from one side, but we never got the other side. I loved Jessica Steen as Elizabeth Weir, and I think she's episode 97 in Dial the Gate. She's at the end of season 1. And she came on and she shared her perspective on what happened about being recast. And she was honest and she was transparent. And lo and behold, it lined up exactly with what we heard. Right down to she talked too much, which is what we heard. And then on her side, she says, I couldn't keep my mouth shut. The exact same story, but it wasn't ours to share it for years. So people would come
Yeah.
online on the forums. What happened to Jessica Steen?
I was transfixed listening to her tell the story.
I absolutely, because it wasn't our story to tell. It wasn't our place to share that story. We had been told certain things out of confidence from
Yeah.
production, things that you and I will take to our graves about how some people had to be fed lines with big posters. And no one needs to know who those people were. But when Jessica chose to tell that story, it allowed me to share the information and say, yes, I can confirm that that's what everyone felt. She felt that she couldn't keep her mouth shut in talking about some of these other things. And so now when I see that online, I can share the link and say, here's her talking about this. This is her story to tell. It's not my story to tell. Let her do it. Though I think Jessica's is probably my favorite because of that very reason, because I loved Weir. And for years, it was nagging with people, what the heck happened? And you and I are watching these stories get like people, oh, it was this and this and this. And it's like, no, it wasn't. That wasn't it at all.
Mhm.
So confirming certain things when the people are ready to confirm them has been really cool.
Yeah.
And that's only one part. The other part is, finding new details that we never learned. I never knew there was a fire. Did you know about the fire
The
on the
fire at the
Stargate
studio, no.
set?
No,
I didn't
you
know
sent me
that.
pictures of it from back in the day that you got your hands on. I didn't know there was a fire in the studio.
After Enigma, excuse me, after Solitudes, when that following weekend, there was a fire on the set that nearly burned all of stage 5 and 6 down. It didn't nearly. It could have if someone wasn't paying attention and hadn't walked by at the right time.
Yeah.
And apparently for the rest of that production, you and I never noticed it, but when you walk by General Hammond's office, you can smell smoke.
Hmm.
But
Wow.
we were never thinking to look for it, but
Yeah.
they did because they were there for it. So it's little things like that, And eventually we got photos of it to share from one of the folks who were
Yeah.
part of production. So we got to share those on Dial the Gate as well. So little things like that are really cool. And Peter DeLuise told me, he watches and he'll talk about, oh, you when you talk to this person about that, and it's like, yeah, I did. You watched that? I said, yeah, of course I watched that. I'm learning new stuff all the time. The director of over like 100 some odd the most
Yeah, he's
prolific
still
Stargate
the best.
director of all of them is learning new stuff. So I guess something's working. So yeah.
Who of your guests would you say has surprised you the most? That you went into the interview and you just, hopefully for the better, you got something out of it that you never expected to get.
I'm very thankful for my uh relationship is too strong a word. I am very thankful for the connection I have with Rob Cooper. We've sat down 11 times. You and I knew him during production. Brad was the expressive one. Coop was quiet and dry, and I couldn't read him. It turns out not a lot of people can read Rob. They have to sit down with him for a little while. I am thankful to have gotten to know him and gotten a chance to share his. I wish Brad would come on. I wish he has an open invitation. But Coop has been amazing to sit down and talk with. Uh, I wish I could have that relationship with Brad through this process, because that has been such a gift. Joseph Malazzi, he was the one that I pitched when I you were the first that I contacted, and I said I've had this idea for a web series. He was the second one that I contacted and said I want to go through each season with you month by month systematically for 17, 18 months. And I had my answer before the end of the day because he started in at season 4, so we didn't really have to go back to the very beginning, but pretty close to it. And so that was a fantastic process. Can I pull up and look at the faces so that I can actually give you a concise uh, answer to this? Um, Tom Macbeth and I have gotten to know each other, but Tom and I knew each other really
Yeah, you
before.
knew Tom. That's
Um,
Mayborn for people watching.
People that I've made like I'm surprised, at the moments that we've had. Aaron Craven,
Hmm.
Aaron and I spoke after, and I met up with him in Vancouver when I was there a few weeks ago. We connected on a couple of different levels, and we really got a chance to have some good conversations. Patrick McKenna, God, that guy is cool. I wish he really got to play more of himself, especially in the second episode than Jay, because he's just
Jay Felger.
Jay Felger. He's just a really good guy. Rob Fournier, the armorer. Uh, I just got back with Rob, and I shot one of the 10 original P90s that were used in production.
Wow.
So they were blanks. So one of the originals from the show. I could go on and on. There's all kinds of. I mean, we had Bonnie Bartlett on twice. Linnea. She's an Emmy winner, and she was another one who was honest about her experiences. And everyone has their own perspective to share. So there's been some really really cool ones. The 100th episode that we did when we had a little bit more than half of the Atlantis cast.
Hmm.
That was actually produced for San Diego Comic-Con,
Hmm.
and was an excuse to get them all together. So that was our 100th show. Michael Shanks has been great. Michael
Yeah.
has been
And it's great to get to
awesome.
celebrate those guys, right?
Yeah,
To celebrate was that for the 15th anniversary of Atlantis? Something like that?
I
I
think it
seem
was
to remember there was
16
a,
years since it. Yeah, there was
yeah, there
some.
was an
It wasn't
anniversary
an
on it.
exact anniversary, but it was a good excuse. I think it was the anniversary of their ending. I think it was maybe something like that. But yeah,
Something
it
like
was
that,
just
yeah.
a great excuse to get them all
But
together.
yeah, the studio was not in a position to, have that kind of celebration. So the fact
No,
that you could do it
yeah,
and have Dial the Gate host a Comic-Con panel was
yeah. And then
awesome.
we actually did Comic-Con in physical form last year, and that's a great episode that's in there as well. So we celebrated the feature film. And I wanted to have cast and crew from the production, but it ended up turning out to be most of us fans. Eric Avari did a wonderful message to intro, and it was a great conversation. And yeah, we had it in one of the big ballrooms at San Diego, and that was a great time. So a lot of friends were there for that for me.
Tell us about season 5. Who do you have that you have announced?
So this weekend we have 5 shows, and it's going to be quite the ride. 3 of which are live, 2 on Saturday and 1 on Sunday. Vanessa Angel is actually going to be episode 301. She played Anise and Freya in Stargate. And we're talking with her live this Saturday, March the 29th at 1 p.m. Pacific time. And then Rob Lee is going to be joining us. He played Colonel Pierce in about 4 seasons of the show. He's going to be joining us an hour later at 2 o'clock. And then at 3 o'clock on Saturday Pacific time, it's unboxing a fan-made Stargate. That's the one that's behind me here. So you're gonna see my sharing that for the first or seeing it for the first time. Lane Gates, who played Shifu in one of my favorite episodes, Absolute Power, he's live on Sunday, March the 30th. He and I have been communicating nearly since I started the show, maybe 1 or 2 years less, and just he is a working stiff, let me tell you. He's like in construction or something. he has a daughter now, a young daughter. But I've really made a point to connect with all of the child actors from the show who are adults now, and some of them, like Jeff Gulka. Jeff has been another one who's become a friend, and he's actually become best friends with Nicole Rodriguez Galdo, my co-host on Wormhole Extremists. So a lot of great little things have come out of this. But so Jeff is one, but Lane is another, and so we're going to be talking with him 10 a.m. Pacific on Sunday, and then Rob Cooper is actually going to be at 11:30 in the morning instead of noon on Sunday. That's his 11th interview that was pre-recorded earlier. Rob's schedule is insane, so we do them pre-recorded, and it gives him a chance to really think about the questions that I'm asking him in the specific episode. So we do them pre-recorded, and so that one will be there. Corin Nemec, Jonas Quinn is coming back. Dean Marshall, who played Sergeant Bates. Christopher Judge and I are going to go through the Teal concept art over the years. This is a dialing home piece that I am five-fingered discounting. John G. Linick, producer for SG-1 Atlantis and Universe. He and I are sitting down and finally having a conversation after years of trying to pull him into this. John doesn't do it in front of the camera, which is a shame because he's absolutely adorable. And we talked for over an hour. Peter Benares was an art director on SG-1 Atlantis, seasons 7 and 8, and Atlantis 1 and 2. And Ben Robinson from Master Replicas is going to talk about their product line as well. And that's just for starters. And at this point, if someone had a speaking part or some kind of meaty role, no one is really off the table yet. And if there's people in the chat who want to know about someone specific, I'd be happy to answer the question. I'm an open book at this point. If someone has told me no, I'll tell you no.
Yeah, we're taking requests.
If someone's not responded, I'll tell you they've not responded.
So the obvious question is, who have you not gotten yet that you really
everyone
want
that you haven't seen
before you
all the principals, all the principals.
Rick and Amanda haven't done
Rick and Amanda. I approached Rick and offered him a fair amount of money to come on, and never heard back. And that I understand. I'm intimidating.
Well, he has been at conventions, but there's layers, there's mediators between him.
He doesn't know me. We've met a handful of times. I've never gotten the impression that he particularly likes me, but that may be completely wrong. But I don't think
he doesn't know you. You're just
right.
You're a fan who does.
That's true. Amanda, I haven't been able to get because she's so insanely busy. And I haven't spoken with her one-on-one since the show started. Yeah. And I reach out to her office and I send messages and I don't hear anything back. So that's a little disappointing.
Some of those guys who are so busy,
right?
I feel like, well, in some cases, like Amanda, you'll see her do something for the companion because it's connected to a cause that she's really passionate
about.
Brad,
and that's Brad's project. So yeah.
Or you gotta wait for the right opportunity, right? Some of these actors back in the day when they were shooting, we had to wait and catch them at a convention that they were already booked for, and we could kind of pull them into the green room for 10 minutes and say, this is who we are, this is what we're doing. So maybe with some of those guys, it's just waiting not for their schedule to clear for them to hop on Zoom, but it's maybe they're going to get, Amanda gets booked for a future GateCon or something, and you can.
And it's been 20 years. I mean, some of these questions are really intense. So I understand not wanting to sit there and with I don't get it.
And a lot of folks,
and I could go down the list, but I'm not going to. But I mean, like Michael, once we got him, he got what I was doing. And I mean, he tested for young Ernest before Paul Littlefield came in. They have photos of this. I didn't know that. I mean, unreal stories like that.
Wow.
Did you know that?
No.
You haven't seen the episode yet, have you?
I had no idea.
Watch the episode. Yeah, he tested for young Ernest.
That's wild.
Yeah. Jonathan Glassner was like, "What do you think?" And they were like, "I think it may confuse people."
It would be confusing as heck to the audience, right?
Yeah, we need to,
especially when he then goes and visits Catherine in the present day.
Right. But the whole point was, she was why Catherine pursued him for the project. So she saw something in him. And what they do instead is they just explain that in dialogue. Yeah. So that she reminds them of it. But I mean, little stories like that, Michael has been great. Yeah.
Michael's
So
dialed in. He knows how to do this.
yes,
He
yeah.
tells great
And he
stories.
remembers, he's really good about sharing those kinds and being Machello and talking about, that whole process and the aging makeup. And they brought a special makeup artist up there for that specific job and talking about, his disappointments in filming Double Jeopardy, with the heavy visual effects. He's like, he was poor guy was deer in headlights for like the first day, and then he figured it out. But little stories like that, I'm always thrilled that we get to share.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
watching the chat here to see names. Corin's been name dropped here. You've had Corin on a couple of
Oren's
times.
been on twice. He's going to be coming back this next month to talk specifically about creating character. And we're going to compare two of his
Okay, cool.
characters back to back. We're going to talk about Harold Lauder, which is a Stephen King character, and
Mhm.
Jonas, and how he gets inside them
Very
and
nice.
and pulls out the material.
Yeah. And Brandy Ledford, you did recently. You did at the end of season 4.
Brandy was on at the end of season 4. Yeah, you guys need to go to dialthegate.com/episodes. Is that right? Am I right about that? And yes, and
Allegate.com and click around until you find the full
yeah,
list.
and they display
And
in
we've got a
reverse
clip with
order.
from the Brandy conversation. We've got a clip coming up on GateWorld here in the next few weeks.
Oh, excellent. So yeah, there's so they display in reverse order and you can just go all the way down that way. Or you can go to YouTube, dial the gate, and click on playlists, and you can look at them in ascending or descending. Because some are live and some are not, and YouTube displays them in different pages. So
Yeah.
that's where you can see the whole thing. So before I forget, do you have the clip?
I do have the clip. Are we ready to run it?
Yeah, let's go ahead and run it
Let's take
before
a
my
You want
head
to set up
explodes.
this exclusive preview of Dial the Gate season 5 for us?
I have been blessed with some amazing people to help me out behind the scenes. My moderating team, my transcript team now, that is in like the realm of like 30 people now. If you want to help write transcripts, reach out to me at dialthegateshow@gmail.com. You get credited at the end of every episode. My Frederick Marcoux, my web developer, Linda Fury, and Anthony Rowling, my producers, Nicole Rodriguez Galdo and Evie Cahill. All these people, I don't do this alone. I don't sail alone. But Bryce Ors, who is French, he is this amazing French visual effects artist, and has created my art for the beginning and ending of or the beginning of the show. So he creates all the opening title sequences. Neal Acree did the music, so there's some Stargate DNA in this show, and that was very
Yeah,
important
Neil
to me to have
was a
Neal compose my
composer with
theme
Joel Goldsmith.
with Joel Goldsmith. But for the uh, third or fourth season moving forward, I wanted to change the titles up. And so I reached out to Eagle SG. His name is Matt Wilson, but he goes by Eagle SG. And he's made digital Stargate assets. And so we have spaceship flybys, I think starting off in season 4, uh, to tee up the episode. I have uh, the Milky Way galaxy
Mhm.
for the SG-1 stuff, the Pegasus galaxy for the Atlantis stuff, and the nebula at the opening scene of SGU for the Stargate Universe stuff. And the various ships fly by, but we've never had a talk for various reasons. And so I'm going to open Vanessa Angel's episode 301 with this.
This is cool. Let's take a look. Beautiful.
So can you believe that's fan made? That's the
It
3D
looks so good.
model.
I had the same reaction when I saw what was the first one, the Daedalus or something.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
yeah.
so
So
incredible.
that's a 3D Hatak model designed by Nick Sketcher. The texture artists behind that were Samuel Calkins and David Jacques Jerurki. I'm sorry, brother, I
Good.
butchered your name.
First try.
Stargate 3D model effects, background and sound mix provided by Matt Eagle SG Wilson and Neal Acree did the score. Samuel, he's one of the guys behind Trek Yards. They've had, I
Oh,
mean,
cool.
folks like Doug Drexler on Trek Yards is over at YouTube, and his Star Trek and crossover fan films. The visual effects are amazing, and they are available on YouTube at Power 543 Films. no space between the power and the 543. Check him out if you want cool
Very cool.
visual. And he actually put the Defiant up against a Hatak recently in a Star Trek Stargate crossover. So
That's
thank
awesome.
you to all those people for making that possible.
Yeah,
So
and Power
that's
543, I saw him in the chat earlier. I'm not sure if
yep, yep. It's like he doesn't sleep, so he's still
yeah.
there.
There
He'll
he
be up
is.
until 6 in the morning.
You're here.
So yeah,
Very cool.
yeah, yeah.
Okay,
I'm amazed by
I
their
want to get to
work.
some fan questions. We got people
Okay.
posting in the chat, but before we get to that, well, let's kind of put a pin in it with this. When are you going to be satisfied? Do you have an end date in mind for Dial the Gate, a certain number of episodes, or are you content as long as you feel like the wheels are still turning and you're still getting yeses from people and still getting new guests and new stories? Do you have an end game in mind for
Yeah,
it?
I do. I'm more than halfway through it. Uh, if Amazon doesn't proceed, and there's every chance that they will, it's just a question of time. Um, I will stop doing seasonal shows, like being on and off season, and I will pursue people on an individual basis to have a live stream here and there. But I do this to keep my own momentum going rather than just, you know what, I'll get to it when I get to it. 'Cause announcing a season means for me, I'm inside this now. And I mean, for every yes, there is 10 no's or no responses. You got to call them. A lot of people are like, oh, just email them. No, you call them. You call the agent, get their assistant on the line so that they know the email is coming. Um, and that's how it is. So imagine the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of phone calls and emails that I've sent out. And keep a spreadsheet. I keep a spreadsheet. And every once in a while, I'll go back down the list and try again. Lane, uh, 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 Vanessa, I wanted them on in season 1 or 2. You
Hmm.
keep on trying. But
Yeah.
yes, in terms of the regular content, yeah, at a certain point, there will be a jump the shark period for this. It's like, oh, let's do Stargate Pictionary, as an episode, which we might actually do later this
I would do
season.
that.
We
Not a shark
we
jumping.
do that on Wormhole Extremists at
Yeah.
every episode. Each week we post a 30-second drawing with Sharpie and try to identify what it is, and it is hilarious. Um, but yeah, I think within a couple of seasons, if they don't announce anything, I will limit it to 15 episodes a year, so that and they will be
Just
more
draw down the frequency.
right, exactly. They'll
That
probably
makes sense.
I don't know how prominent these people will be, but I'm not going to have Soldier number 2 on to talk about his one day on set. You have to have a relatively meaty role or have gone on to do something relatively prominent, and are you willing to come back and talk? Who was that? Who was that I just recently had that we did that for? Who uh, is so much bigger now, and I wanted to meet her and talk with her, and it's who was that? She was the president. She was the president in Star Trek Discovery. What am I talking about, man?
Oh, President Rillick is
And she was played by
don't put me on a spot
the name
with
isn't
trivia.
coming to Shayla Horsdal. She came to our
Taylor
party
was
in
all, yeah.
2007. And she
Yeah, we
had
knew her
just
well.
done Battlestar Galactica
We knew her
as
when she
the
was
defense
Womack.
attorney. Yeah, yeah, and she was Dee Dee Cassidy. She goes after Baltar in Crossroads in Battlestar, and she was
That's
great. And so
good.
she went on and did The Man in the High
That's
Castle. So
another
I had her
conversation
on, right? Because
that I was
her
transfixed
career
by.
was starting on Stargate, so that was a great opportunity to come in, see her now where she is in her career, and Stargate holds a special place. Tomo Pennicott. Tomo was actually really cool.
Yeah,
And he has 1 or 2 lines in Unnatural Selection. Went on to be Hilo. He went on to do Dollhouse, all this stuff. And Tomo wants to come back. So we're going to talk with him again.
cool.
And
Good.
yeah, so it's little things like that that
Yeah,
always surprise me. John
there's a
Billingsley. Oh my God. John was great. I'm a huge fan of his.
this is always cyclical, right? There's a certain set of actors who, right, you've shared with me some names when I
Yeah.
ask about, I'm always name dropping people, to y'all just, have you thought about this person? Hey, I just saw an
Yes,
episode
you
with this
are.
person. And sometimes that generates a guest, and sometimes it's uh, reached out, got a response. They don't want to talk about Stargate anymore. They've moved past it
Yeah,
at this
there
point
have
in
been
their
a few of
career
that.
where
Hmm.
they feel like they need to be doing other things, especially people who did it a lot and were very invested and talked about it for a
Yeah.
long time, don't necessarily want to keep talking about it every time somebody taps on their door. But then for others, it's cyclical, right? It comes back because they'll get to a point in their career where, they get huge, and you could never get Jason Momoa on here, I bet. But if you come back
Eventually, I bet he
around
will.
in 10 or 20
Yeah.
years, when somebody's, working on a specific project that they want to promote,
Hmm.
or their career has kind of cycled back around, they might be really cool with sitting and spending an hour talking with a Stargate fan.
But their relationship with the material may also change too. Christopher Judge went through a period where he didn't want anything to do with Stargate.
Mm.
And then he thought more about it. He was like, you know what? It's not that he didn't appreciate it anymore, but he just wanted to move on and do something else.
Yeah.
And so by the time Dialing Home came around, he was ready to talk about it with people and looked at the show as a vehicle to reconnect with people who were important to him. And so that's what we did.
Yeah.
Christopher, I mean, he's a text away, anytime I need him. Um, he's he's just like a proton. It's impossible to see which direction he's moving and where he is and at any one time. He's Kratos for crying out loud.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, we're going to do some rapid fire questions. Are you ready?
oh no. Okay.
These are not trivia questions. This is just your
Okay.
into the heart of your
Okay.
soul.
Oh,
So
that's pretty
rapid
dark.
fire means you don't get to think about something for
All
more than
right.
5 seconds. You just got to go with your gut. Favorite character from SG-1?
I have to think about that. Come on. My favorite
Come
character from Metro
on,
One,
5 seconds.
and I don't get to think about
Come
it?
on. I got 50 more of these. Come on.
Daniel.
From Atlantis? Favorite character?
Gosh. So many. Janice.
Janice. Interesting.
I wanted to give you an interesting answer.
And how about Stargate Universe?
God, they're all so different.
You're bad at rapid
Um,
fire. Keep it moving.
no, yeah, no, I mean, probably Rush. Bro.
You have a favorite episode of Stargate, and has it changed?
Not really. No. The like of all of it, yeah.
Or pick a
No.
show.
For SG-1, it's the Torment of Tantalus. For Atlantis, it's Sunday, and for Universe, it's
Sunday.
mhm. I love Sunday. There's a reason behind that. Martin Garrow and I talked about that script for a year before he wrote it. So I have a very
Remember, I
personal
was in the
relationship
room
with
when he
that
first
script.
brought it up to us.
So we were chatting about it forever after that. We were talking about that while long before he put pen to paper. And uh for Universe, it's geez Louise, what's the
Well, while
episode?
you're thinking about universe,
It's
with
the
respect to
time
Sunday,
dilation episode where they go back and they meet their ancestors or they see their descendants. So that one I loved.
yeah, common descent.
Common descent. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. For Sunday, just so that people have full context, a certain major beloved character is killed off.
Yeah,
Martin Garrett
that's not why
didn't,
I like it.
yeah, Martin Garrett didn't want to have anything like that happen. He just wanted to have an episode where people were hanging out. There were no missions. It was the day off. Let's just
But the
spend a day
story
with our
was told
characters.
out of sequence. He loved, and he and I both love a movie called Elephant. This film, I went into blindfolded. Dad said, "Don't watch the trailer." Just my father gave this to me. If you can imagine, if you've seen this movie, and he said, "Just watch it." And so I did, and it inspired Martin too. And he went and creates. Look up the film. Elephant is directly responsible for Sunday, because that was the nugget of the idea. Tell a story out of sequence, and then have the audience piece it together.
Favorite System Lord. Not the actor, the System Lord.
Osiris.
Okay.
I'm a huge Anna
Not
Louise
technically
Plowman
a
fan.
System Lord, but I'll take it.
I don't care. I would give a digit to have Anna Louise Plowman on. I
Yeah.
love her.
Yeah.
I've always loved her.
She's
She
bad.
has been this is going to sound awful. She has been my white whale. So,
Yeah. The one you want to get before you finish the show.
yep.
Your favorite non-Stargate show. I already know the answer to this.
What is it?
Well, I was going to qualify this non-Stargate, non-Star Trek show.
Right.
I'm not sure.
My favorite show of all time. You know it.
Well, is it different? If I qualify it as a non-Trek show, does that change the answer?
No.
Okay, your
If I
favorite
was
show,
locked in a room with and had if I was locked in a room and had one show to watch for the rest of time, you know what it would be.
your Desert Island show, ironically, is Lost.
That show is extraordinary.
I'm trying to get my kids to watch it now that they're old enough.
For me, it's extraordinary. And at the end of it, when it's over, I cry my eyes out. I cry through most of the episodes, and I don't usually cry. So what does that tell you? So, but I
Right.
never watched it live. I watched it on disc. So a lot of people are like, it's cliffhangers. Yeah, just watch. Now you can watch them.
The Stargate episode that on a rewatch you're most inclined to skip.
I'm a completist, so I don't skip any of them. Um, but there are a couple in there that are eek, the
Come on, name names. Nobody's watching.
in season right, nobody's watching. In season 5, there is an episode called and it is Outsiders. I don't care for Outsiders.
Outsiders. Oh,
Hmm
Atlanta season 5.
Sorry. Yeah. It was fine.
Yeah. There's a handful of those that I think I've seen one or two times all the way through.
And you run the biggest Stargate website of all
Well,
time. There
two
are
since I did the
episodes out there
rewatch
that
with my
you've only seen.
kids.
Oh, okay, okay. Wow. You know, I went and randomly looked at the Solitudes. You have one entry on that page, my friend. You have your work cut out for you.
One entry.
Hmm
You mean a little blurb in the episode guide?
Right. No, underneath the episode, your episode blurb, you have one fact from that episode and no
Yeah.
summary. So
Yeah, and
you
it's
need to
because
finish the
GateWorld
summaries.
started in season 3,
Right.
and we were very ambitious, brainstorming lots of projects to do. And I was in charge of, right, I spent most of my time doing news and special features and the episode guide. And I very, very slowly went back and kind of caught up on season 2 and 3. Season 1 has been blank for years.
So
A lot of season 1 that I haven't gone back to it yet.
if someone wants to read some of the summaries and get the flavor of them and say, I want to finish them for you, Darren, let me help, where can they email you?
Yeah, they can email me. Look for the contact link at the bottom of gateworld.net or just send me an email at webmaster@gateworld.net.
Yep.
I would love to get some help. We do have some new writers that we're looking at bringing on.
Well, good.
GateWorld's a fan site. I would like it to be a platform for other fans to express their
That's
fandom.
what Dial the Gate has become. So if I can do it, you can do it.
Okay, episode that you'll seek out on just some random Tuesday. This just gets in
Uh,
your head. You got to take 45 minutes and go watch it.
Tangent.
Tangent. Ooh, I
I
love.
love throwing on Tangent.
What do you love about Tangent?
Well, the good news is we haven't sprung a leak, though I may have just taken one. I mean, it's the whole line from Teal'c, we've fought many battles together. We are brothers.
Hmm,
Do you have anything you wish to say, O'Neill? Could I possibly say after that? Back at you. I love that episode.
back
I,
at
th I think I think that it's my favorite episode.
you.
If
Yeah.
I throw it on, because I don't go back and watch Stargate, not anymore, not really. I'm much more interested in finding new shows. There's so much good. I don't loop it like a lot of people do 10, 20 times. I did when I was younger, and as an adult, there's tons of new stuff out there that I love seeing.
Yeah.
So,
Tangent
but
has
yeah, Tangent is it.
it's one of my favorite dilemma episodes. Like we are
Uh-huh.
out in the universe way in over our
We
heads.
are over our heads.
We don't have ships yet, so
Yeah,
these
we were
guys are
hoping you could beam them
die.
out.
If
What,
we
am I
can't go
Scotty? Yeah.
go find Jacob and his cargo ship, and then it's also one of my favorite Jacob moments, which is he comes in all mad that Sam and Daniel have blown his cover,
Yeah.
and they take 1 second to explain why they're there, and he says, "Okay, good enough.
Yeah, Selmac
Let's go."
doesn't hold him down at this. I think Selmac loves Earth more than he does at this point, you know. But who do you say you were? The great and powerful Oz.
That's a good answer. For me, it would be I think a lot about Foothold. I go back and watch that one every now and then, and Ergo. I didn't like Ergo when it first aired. The humor
No. Oh, I
didn't,
laughed my ass off.
didn't tickle my funny bone, but now yeah,
Oh,
it's all the way into my marrow.
oh man, my mother loves Dom. So yeah.
Your desert island show you already gave us is literally
Gosh.
a show about a desert island. A prop you would grab in your house. If your house was burning down and you were running out the door, what's one thing you?
Gosh, I don't know. I honestly don't know. No, the bigger pieces are really special to me. The Matthew Scott spacesuit from Universe, the Stargate segment.
That would be something to explain to the firemen when they show up and you've got your arms wrapped around this EV suit.
Yeah, I think I don't know. That's really hard, man. I mean, maybe downstairs something. Maybe the
Well, it will keep you up tonight.
it'll come to me. Yeah, yeah. I'll put in the comments below if I come up with it.
Okay. And finally, if you could do only one more interview, who would it be?
Rick
Yeah,
or in a Louis Plowman.
both of them together.
Right. There was such an overlap. Yeah. No, I'd love to sit down and talk with Rick. I want to talk more about his philanthropy because I find him
Yeah,
interesting as a person.
yeah.
We were on the midway for Continuum, and I was in the lineup for the red carpet, and we connected for about 5 minutes and talked. And by the end of that, he was like, they were telling him to move on, and we mostly talked about his philanthropy, and that was the first time I met him. And at the end of it, he was like, I want to stay and keep talking about this. And they said, no, you got to go. So I would like that opportunity. So I don't think it's going to happen though. I played my last card for it, and it was a big one. It was a good one. So
Yeah, well, never say never.
that's a
Okay,
fair point.
we're in the chat. We're gonna look here and see.
Okay.
Mama's in the chat. David's mom says hi.
Oh
Hi.
my God. Hi, Mom.
Hi, Mom. Anybody have any questions for David? We want to keep this train rolling for a few more minutes. If you have questions, go ahead and put them in the chat.
No one's said anything so far. That's probably not. So all good though. Um, I'm trying to really give you a good answer on that one.
On which one?
The what I would want to save.
Oh yeah. Uh,
Probably one of these fan pieces because that's a one of a kind, you know, or a two of a kind, but it's heavily enhanced. The stuff that the fans of that friends have made for fellow fans have made for me, I'd probably a couple of them I'd probably have to take
yeah, yeah. Those
because
are very
some of them
special.
aren't they're not making them anymore.
Yeah.
So some of them have retired
Martin's
from
made
it.
me a couple things that are very special.
Exactly. Martin's brilliant.
Going to show off on the channel here soon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, Micah John asks, have you had or are you going to have Mike Dopude on at some point?
Mike's on there.
Mike's on the list, the to-do list, or
No, he's done.
you've had him?
Had him.
Good. Check the archive for Mike.
Yep.
Um,
You can also go to IMDb and go to Dial the Gate, and they'll have the complete list of the guest stars. So if you want to see a quick rundown.
good, good.
Yeah.
Let's see.
He's a great guy too.
Batmole the Gator asks,
Hey, Batmall.
me and or you, how about are you planning to attend Star Fury Ascension or FedCon this year? Star Fury is going to be in the London area. I'm
I
not going. I'm terrible at traveling.
I'm in school right now. I only have so much bandwidth. So, but yeah, no, that's there's some cool European events.
Yeah.
One of these
But
days
if
I'll go
you are
back to.
going, let us know. We'd love to put some photos up, or if you want to write a convention report,
That's a great point.
we'd love to publish that. Winston Alexander, you mentioned money. Do you pay the guests to appear on the podcasts?
Sometimes.
Sometimes it's necessary.
Mhm. I don't take money from fans. I don't believe in it. There's no Patreon. If you want to buy a shirt, but I for season four I didn't even promote the merch store for t-shirts and things like that. I don't believe in it. Um, so the channel generates a little bit of ad revenue, and every cent of it goes back into the project. I would love to have a benefactor because if I could get a few $1,000s, I could get some of these big ones. Some of these actors are not cheap, but God, it's been rewarding. I love this. But if I shared the dollar figure with you of what I've spent on some of these people, you'd be embarrassed for me.
Yeah, well, I've
Like you're doing
as
it wrong. It's
as
like
a
this is not
journalist,
about making money. This is about
I've
sharing, getting stories.
yeah, I've swallowed hard a few times, hearing about the fact that I mean, we spent so many years on this, just benefiting from the generosity of people's time that they would want to talk to us. But those that I know you've had to spend money on, boy, they've turned out good. Boy, they're so
Yeah,
good.
they're invested in it,
Yeah.
and it's resulted in nothing but a positive experience. There was one that I sent a check to, and they never cashed it,
Hmm.
and it's been over a year now. I think they had a really great experience.
Good.
So, and
That's great.
others, they for others it is no problem. So, and I have
Yeah,
no
well,
problem giving it to them.
I never blame them, right? It's the same thing with conventions.
Yeah,
We love to see them. We love to have hopefully genuine interactions
they're
with
no longer
the
promoting this
casters.
show. It's over.
But
They're not
this is
promoting it
work for
anymore.
them.
Yes.
You want them to show up at a convention, it's a job and they're gonna get compensated for it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'll tell you one. I offered no, I'm not gonna do it. No, never mind.
Nope, button that one up.
Yeah. It's not nice. It doesn't look nice. And people who I'm trying to get to come on, no, I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah, we don't want to
So
shed poor light on anybody. Greg Fenstead asks, Darren David, what is a secondary plot from each show you wish we would get more get more of or a wrap up? What's a secondary plot that you didn't get quite enough of?
or that I thought of since. I want to know what happened to the Milky Way seed ships. Where are they? How did
Milky
those
Way seed ships.
how did those Stargates get around the Milky Way?
You think that the ancients used seed ships for the Milky Way?
Sure they did. Sure they did. Let's
I guess
retcon
there's
the
a
hell
lot of
out
them.
of Let's retcon the hell out of this. The seed chip technology existed by the time they started
Yeah,
poking around the Milky Way. Those
that's
were
very
2.0
true.
Stargates.
That's very
So,
true.
I,
Otherwise,
I
there's so many thousands of them. If it was
yeah,
a manned mission, it would have taken
yep.
a very long
Did they
time.
destroy them? Is one of them left in an asteroid field somewhere?
Interesting.
And imagine having the resource of being able to build new Milky Way stargates and build your own isolated star. Imagine what the Ashen would be able to do with that technology. A Milky Way seed ship would be a real asset. So,
Yeah, and one of the storylines from SGU that I found so fascinating was the fragility of the SGU gates, right? One of them
yeah,
in
they're
common
low
descent
power.
gets blown up. Just
Yeah, there's a
a
chunk of
drone
it taken out.
fires at it and it busts it
Yeah.
because those seed chips are collecting materials as they go.
Hmm.
They don't have an infinite supply of
No, and that thing
what
took a
the
bite out of
lovely
it like,
Stargates end up being made of.
yeah, that thing took a bite out of it like Cookie Monster. So from Atlantis, I'd love to know where the ZPM factory was. And
Sure,
Joseph Malazzi kind of answered this in his "What would season 6 have been like?"
right.
It's hidden in Atlantis.
Little pocket
Um,
dimension.
if right, if
Yeah,
Atlantis was the crown jewel of the ancient domain, they would have kept them close by somehow. Yeah. And for SGU, I want to know who the obelisk aliens were.
yeah.
And when Kane and the others came back, I bet that was not the last time we would have seen Kane. I think he would have been an avatar for them, like a
Yeah, that would have been interesting.
just to speak through
He was a
in
great character.
season
You haven't had
3.
him on yet, have you?
I'm trying to get him.
Tyron.
Yeah, the Ty Runyon. That's it. Yeah, I'd really love to talk with him.
Yeah.
So,
There's lots of one-offs from classic SG-1, like the Foothold aliens, like the Re2, that I would have loved to see come back just because they add such texture to the universe and to the lore.
the Stragoth, is that one of the
Goth, yeah, that's the non-canon name for the Foothold aliens
from what is that from the role-playing game or something?
from the RPG, yeah, the old
Okay.
Alderac RPG.
Those pieces really have some interesting non-canon elements in them. Like Anubis used the no the GateWorlds used the eyes. They come oh my My telecheck device is dying. The Goa'ulds use all of the eyes combined to ultimately put Anubis down, and so that's why he was collecting them, searching across the galaxy to put them back together to destroy them. Little things like that. The original role playing game has those stories, and it's like, that that makes sense. So it's really cool.
Let's see here. Raj Luthra asks,
Hey,
which
Raj.
your favorite and not favorite ship or ships from the Stargate franchise?
I know people have a soft spot for Prometheus, but I'm not crazy about it.
Prometheus?
It's function over form. I'm just not thrilled with her. She's an office building in space.
Ooh, it is a floating office building in
Yeah,
space,
I just
literally.
wasn't thrilled with it. Destiny's my favorite. So, and I've got her over here. Hang on.
Destiny's a beautiful ship.
A lot of people don't like her.
Yeah, I like the design. I like the chevron form
Yep.
factor.
It was a Chevron. So, yeah, this was also made by a fan, and they made this really cool acrylic stand that and the detail in some of these people that have done um, that you can never see on the show. Um, here's the coordinates for Destiny,
Cool.
and then you've got like her systems in ancient. So,
Nice.
yep. So,
Boy,
there's
fans
some
in there
really
taking
amazing
detail.
designers out there in fandom.
Yeah.
Yep. But yeah, no, yeah, she's my favorite.
Yeah, it'd be either Des for me, either Destiny or just the old classic Hatak.
Yeah,
It just says Stargate, right? A
yeah.
flying spaceship with an ancient Egyptian pyramid in it.
What do you
There's
think
nothing more
about
Stargate than that.
what do you think about the news out of Giza? Do you think it's bunk?
I haven't paid attention. I don't know what it is. They found a mummy underneath.
No. Larger than the Eiffel Tower, they've found a chamber that goes all the way beneath, and these pillars and these coils of some either material or steps that go all the way down. And
Hmm.
right now, I've heard it's 85% certain that there's something there. Um, but I
Wow.
could go either way.
Wow.
Yeah,
I'll
I
have
did
to.
a special live stream the other day, and
Yeah, I'll
it
have to
had
watch your video.
yeah. So
Okay, questions are coming fast and furious now.
oh, okay.
Thank you,
I'll move
everybody.
through
Sorry
them.
if I missed your question. Winston Alexander, why do you think the ancients or ancestors didn't really advance in tech over 1 million years while the Asgard advanced in tens of thousands of years?
Think they were, well, that's a very, you can say the same argument about the Star Wars galaxy. They kind of reached this level of technology and kind of just stayed there because they arrived at a level of functionality that was consistent.
Yeah,
For a fictional story, it's the best way to go because, if you want to tell stories from different time periods about a galaxy spanning civilization, you have to kind of do that. For us, I mean, it's not going to be that way at all. We're going to advance in a kind of a continuing upward trajectory and hopefully not fall off on the other side. Some of these human robots that are beginning to come on the market in the next several months are kind of spooky. But that's neither here nor there. But yeah, I think in canon, I don't know if they were as collected a collective through their entire time frame as the Asgard suggested that we all were. There may have been like a group of them who got together for their United Nations of the Stars, but I think a number of them had a lot of different interests. I mean, look at Janus; he's a great example of that. Not
yeah,
all of them are on the same page.
yeah. I like the idea of different groups or colonies of ancients doing
Yeah,
different things and
and leaving their
being
crap everywhere.
in contact with each other, but even potentially
Probably.
evolving their technology at different rates.
Yeah,
Uh,
and I mean, look at the cloister in Atlantis, the episode where they're inside the dome.
yeah.
Many of them isolated themselves from the
When
rest of the
you
group.
introduce ascension into the mix and you have groups
Right.
of ancients who are pursuing this higher evolution,
Hmm.
sort of non-material existence, then it makes a lot of sense that they would start to ignore other things.
We knew that they were doing that, so it makes
But
a lot of sense.
yeah, so it makes sense to me that eventually a society that is technologically advanced would plateau. because they're sort of happy with what they have. And then you have the introduction of really interesting figures like Janus, who right comes very late in
Hmm.
ancient history. Uh, but
Yeah.
also the ancient civilization, the Alterran civilization, is stupid old.
Hmm.
Millions upon millions upon millions of years.
And God knows how many galaxies.
Yeah, we can't even fathom the span of that civilization, its history, its rise and fall, right? We tell our history right now in terms of centuries and millennia. I just can't even fathom. It's
I
almost, I
had,
mean, here's a question for you. They're almost stupidly old,
yeah.
making the ancients tens of millions or hundreds of millions of years old. Um, do you think that that's necessary, that it was kind of a necessary place to go for using the ancients the way that the writers wanted to?
Yeah.
Or was it something that they overshot and really they should have made the ancients like 1 or 2 million years old?
Well, yeah, probably more of the latter for sure. They're blamed for everything. They're kind of like the the Swiss Army knife of Stargate. Where did they go now? Now, where did they come from? But I always there is an episode. Do you remember the Voyager episode Death Wish? Q takes
Death Wish.
yeah, Q you go to the Q continuum.
Yeah, where the Q wants to
What do
die.
you do when you've explored everything?
Mhm.
You're an explorer. What if there's nothing left to explore? Would you want to go on forever with that knowledge? Um, and I wrote along. I wrote an idea for what happened to uh, the four great races, why they broke up, and what caused the plague. I'll keep some of it close to the chest. It was called Stargate Oblivion. And in Stargate Oblivion, and I fleshed this out with Diane Drew Botsford, but the nugget of the story was mine. What do you do when you're a civilization and you've worked with the Nox, you've worked with the Furlings, you've worked with the Asgard, and you've created this amazing thing for a millennia, and you've explored one region of the universe to the other, and there's nothing left. It's too early on. There's not enough life out there yet. I mean, it's a different era. There's spacefaring stuff later, probably for a lot of other species. But for these people, they found everything that there is. Would you want to go on forever with that, or would you want to die? And but if you didn't want to do that, how would you evolve next? And if you can't evolve technologically, if you're not interested in doing that, you might want to consider evolving genetically and maybe combining species, hence the plague, hence a catastrophic error that that ultimately kills the Asgard, um, destroys the Nox and their interest in any association with anybody, and does something to the Furlings where they've been around all along and we never knew it. Maybe the Furlings had wings. I will just say that. And maybe those wings were really heavily shortened. And maybe they have genetic memory. But that was a pitch that I had to Fandemonium, and they passed it.
Yeah.
So we wanted to do uh, uh, a kind of a Stargate like all-star team uh, with characters from all of the shows, and they were very much like, no, we've done our research. The audience wants to read stories of the teams. It's like, but we want to put new people together. We want to bring in Alec Colson. We want to bring in
Yeah.
Sarah Gardner, who's no longer Goulden. I want to bring back Reese. We never saw what happened to Reese. Yeah, I want to bring in the Hammond. I want to bring in Haley as first officer, and now we want to do stories with the team. So that's a real shame. It was six stories. Um, it was going to explain what the Stargate Destroyer was at the beginning of season 6 with Anubis's device. Anubis and Omodesala were going to play a heavy part. It was going to be involve a galaxy called Segway 1, which is a real galaxy, which at the time it contained the most densely packed dark matter known to that we had seen at that point. And Stargate wormholes can't travel through dark matter. You have to travel around them. So depending on where you are in the galaxy, you can't connect to certain other Stargates. You have to hop, skip, and jump your way across the galaxy. Um, and maybe that's where some of the original Nox went. We imagine them as very Ent-like. Like the Nox that we see, they look like humans and trees. There's a reason for that. There's a genetic reason for that in the story that I wrote. So I was wanting to make that a part of beta canon with Fandemonium, but there. So thank you for letting me share that. I'm sorry. That's been on my chest for 15 years.
No, and I love the story. And it
You
just
read
goes,
it. I gave it to you years ago, and you
you
bought it.
you gave me the at least the oral pitch. I heard a bunch of this. I don't know if
I
I
gave you the
read them.
outline for the 6 books, and you said it was good.
Okay. Yeah.
So,
It's one of those things that really demonstrates how much there is in the Stargate universe that is just untapped raw story potential.
hmm
Amazon. So that's the segue to the big question, which is Raj also asked in the chat, when do you think we're going to get some news from Amazon about what they're going to do?
I don't know. I don't know. It could be years. It could be tomorrow. It could be never. But I don't believe it will be never. I believe it will happen. I believe
Yeah,
it will happen.
yeah.
Jen Salke is gone
That's
from
that's the breaking news this week. The head of Amazon MGM
Amazon
Studios
MGM, which
out.
I mean, if you're doing really good, you don't go away. You know, right in the middle of Lord of the Rings, uh, I find that rather interesting.
Yeah, the
Um,
scuttlebutt that I'm reading is that Jeff Bezos was not happy about the having to give the Bond people an extra $1 billion to actually lock down the rights so that they can use it.
oh,
The executive's
ooh,
job is to get the deals done, and the fact that didn't happen for 3 years and then took
oh,
$1 billion might have been the boot that put her out the
th-
door.
they were intransigent, those folks who owned the rights. So yeah, that's I don't know if Bond is worth that at this stage. I mean, if they do want to create like an entire like Citadel kind of series based on it, you're going to be milking that cow for whoo. Those teats are going to be
Yeah,
sore.
you could if you do a good movie. I think there are Bond movies that have made over $1 billion at
Yeah,
the box office. So
yeah.
there's
You get half that, and
a
then
lot there.
150% of the budget is advertising. It's if I mean, yeah, it's complicated. So,
Yeah.
but
So when
eventually we'll be seeing something. I wouldn't be surprised if we hear, within like a year or something. But it's one of the reasons that Dialogate exists when what created was created when it was is so that we can ride that wave rather than be subsumed by it when the announcement comes out. So you and I already have our platforms in place.
Yeah, and
So
that's why we've been doing more
yeah,
on YouTube over the last several years. That's why I've started some of the video series that I've done, like the recaps, SG-1 recaps. We're working on season 4 and 5 right now, so that those are all done when this new wave of fans come along who are introduced to Stargate through a new show, and they want
and
to
they
go back
will.
and rewatch, watch the old stuff, or you've got fans who haven't seen it for 10 years and
Hmm
they want a rapid fire recap of what they forgot. Those things are right putting down the brick and mortar to get ready for the future.
Yep.
So I think
And
it's
I'm more
coming.
than ready.
I'm done speculating. I thought since Origins in 2018,
Yeah.
since I stood on the deck of the Midway with an
Yeah.
MGM executive who said we're going to give the next one more money. Uh, I've been expecting it to be right around the corner for a long
Yep.
time, and the Amazon deal closed in the spring of 2022, and by about the end of 2023, I was done looking for it around every corner. It'll be
Yep.
here when it gets here.
Yeah. And I can tell you this, there are people inside of Amazon who love Stargate very much. So
Good.
it's not beyond the realm of possibility that we'll be hearing something at some point. But until that happens, I'm not paying attention to anyone but the GateWorld.net homepage. So, yep.
Yep, read
Because
GateWorld, watch Tell the Gate.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
read. is the host of Dial the Gate, which premieres its fifth season right here on YouTube at youtube.com/Dial the Gate. That's got to be right. Saturday, March 29th. What time's your first show?
10 a.m. Pacific.
10 a.m. Pacific if you want to tune in live for that first show.
Yeah.
It
Or
looks like a great lineup coming up.
you can submit questions to the guests for free. All you have to do is be a subscribed member of the Dial the Gate page. We've got moderators in there who are ready to take your questions for the guests and bring them over to me, and everybody's a really good time. People have a lot of fun.
Yep, it's a good time. If you've never checked out one of these live streams, if you've just watched the clips from Dial the Gate on GateWorld, then you owe it to yourself. Pick an actor, a character that you really loved, an actor that you're really intrigued by, and go and turn up for one of these live events. They're a lot of fun.
There are a lot of Darren, thank you.
Thank you, David, for being here.
Thank you
to
so
everybody in
much.
chat. Thank you for being here. Thank you for
Thank you.
posting your questions. One of my dearest friends, David Reed.
Family,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah. Just live on the wrong side of the continent
Hmm.
to actually spend more time together. But we'll figure out what's next. We'll make it happen.
I will see you on the other side.
I've heard that somewhere.
Yeah, some lady at a museum.
Some lady at a museum.
And we're walking this way.
I'll see you on the other side. Is that where you got that from?
That's where I got that from. You didn't know that? I got that from
What?
2010.
Oh my goodness.
You on the other side. The end of
Secret
it's the end of
reveal.
her presentation.
That's
Yeah.
hilarious.
That's not mine.
I thought that was just
That's Brad Wright.
I thought that was just YouTubers being like, I'll see
No.
you on the other side of the gate.
No, I pulled that from the show. Cheesy
That's
and
good. Now I want to
sentimental
rewatch
in
2010.
equal doses. Cheesy and sentimental. Yeah.
Perfect.
That's a great episode. I watched that on a screen this big when a little website called SG-1 Archive was posting the
Oh
videos
yeah. I remember that.
illegally before it got taken down.
The little squinty screen
Squinty screen.
before the days of torrent.
Yeah, I just gotten back watching The Fellowship of the Ring in a very uncomfortable seat for 3 hours, and I went back to the place
And
where I
that's
was
when
at, and I put
man.
on 2010.
I
Yeah.
remember watching Failsafe on a little computer screen. Because there was this big gap. This is the longest gap with no new
Yeah,
Stargate was in the mid-season break in season 5, and it was partially due to 9/11. There was a
yeah,
long gap, not because of Stargate, but because Showtime was getting ready to premiere Jeremiah, a
yep,
post-apocalyptic drama alongside
right.
Stargate, and 9/11, and they didn't want to air Jeremiah right away. So we
No,
ended up with 6 or 7 months with no new episodes.
yep. I saw 2001 first, and I'm like, the Ashen, who the hell are the Ashen? And then a couple of nights later, after watching the Lord of the Rings in the theater, I went and watched 2010, and I'm like, this was a great episode. And I saw like 86 megabytes of it. So,
86. That's amazing.
yep.
Thank you again to everybody for showing up. Thank you to Stargate Untangled for gifting 5 memberships. Really appreciate that. Uh, we are going to try and do more of this here at GateWorld. I don't know what format it's going to take. If you are a good talking head and you're sitting there saying, I got things to say about Stargate, then drop me an email and let me know. Maybe we'll do some live streams with other fans and just shoot the breeze about Stargate, because I know that the good Mr. Reed is super busy, not only with Dial the Gate, but also Dial the Gate has a spin-off show with
Wormhole
Wormhole
Extremists.
Extremists. So
Mhm.
check them out as well.
Yeah, we're in season
You guys do
7.
episode commentary and other special events kind of oriented around fans and fandom.
And it's a hoot, absolutely. I love those two. But yeah, we're also having trivia again later on this season, and I am going to be talking about this tomorrow. But if you want to join us for trivia, it's all just the same kind of people. This next one is going to be hard, and if you
That's the
know your
theme, hard
Stargate
trivia?
stuff, we're going to have a trivia dedicated just to episode titles. We're
Ooh.
going there. So if you know the episode titles
Oh, I do.
and you want to, I don't anymore.
As the creator of the
I
episode
used
guide.
to. I don't anymore. Some of them, but not all. About half.
Yeah.
If you know episode titles and you want to come on and join us live, and you have a Sunday, if your Sundays are open, Sunday afternoons, U.S. time, email me at dialthegateshow@gmail.com if you wouldn't mind being on camera for 2 hours and sitting with a Stargate guest star as they ask questions.
Lots of
So
fun.
I'm in talks right now.
That'll be cool. That'll be
Yep.
great. Check out Dial the Gate on socials to keep tabs on everything that's going on, announcements for upcoming guests, and of course, we'll continue to do weekly clips here at GateWorld. And again, more live streams coming. Hopefully, if we have things to talk about, hopefully
Wow.
we can just do fan hangouts and Q&As, as well as hopefully one day get news. If I see a headline that says Amazon just announced a new Stargate show, I think probably the first thing I'm going to do is go live on YouTube,
And then
and
I'll have the second one on
process
Dial
it
the Gate.
live and bring you on.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, there's no reason to do a state of the gate. I was thinking about one. It's like, should we do one? It's like, there's no information. We're done until something else comes along. But Jen Salke, that's interesting. So,
Yeah, yeah, interesting developments,
mhm.
but until there's actually something concrete to talk about,
Right.
I don't want to get people's hopes up, and I don't want to get my hopes up anymore. I've been hurt too much, too many
Oh,
times.
callous. There's no hurt left. It's just callous. So,
All right, everybody, that's going to do it for this show. Again, let us know if you want to do more live streams like this. I'd love to do it. Leave a comment down below, visit the website, and shoot me an email. Again, David, thank you so
thank
much for being
you.
here, for giving us so much time. I was joking earlier when I said a 3 hour live stream. We're now almost at 2.5.
Well, this is what happened last time when we started Dial the Gate and we looked at that. It's been that long.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been that long. Is there anyone still watching? How many people are watching? No,
I don't know.
seriously, how many?
This is my first time. Does this little dash,
You should be able to see. Okay.
it says 99
99
concurrent
are what we
currently?
started off with far less than that. So congratulations, my friend.
Thank you. I saw that. Yeah, that went up to about 109.
Yeah. Didn't we have like 500 on Dial the Gate when Cliff Simon died?
Could
I
be.
mean, we had a memorial
We
service.
had a
It
whole
was
service
absolutely
on Dial the
mind-blowing.
Gate. Yeah.
We didn't even talk about that. Yeah. That was an important show. Oh,
Okay.
thank
Well,
you, Darren. Thank
yeah,
you.
there's obviously more to say. There's more just Dial the Gate history to talk about.
Yeah.
So I'd love to have you back on at some point.
Sounds good.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time on the other
Bye.
side of the, what's the line?
See
I'll
you
see
on the other
you
side.
on the other side.
See you on the other side. You
See
can't just do
you
it
on
like
the
that.
other
Yeah.
side.
Yeah. All right.